I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 95. This one's with Chrysi Ann Forton, and it's more of a conversation. At this point, Chrysi was moving from Louisiana up to Tennessee in about, I think, a month or two's time. So we talked heavily about Knoxville for like the first hour or so. And the original intent was talk about her work in upholstery, but we kind of meandered all over the place, and I got to hear her story. It's a great story to hear. If you'd like to find out more about Chrysi, you can find her on Instagram at Witch House Dreams, WITCHHOUSEDREAMS. Appreciate her for coming on. Make sure you give her a follow. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at @FeralGiant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode.
Okay, so you've had La Esperanza, Jackie's Dreams on the list.
Yes.
But the one other place I'll recommend is Wild Love Bakehouse. It's there on Central.
Wild Love Bakehouse?
Yeah, it's next to Midmod Collective.
Oh, I've been there. The coffee shop?
Yes.
Yep. Actually, that was another place. I was supposed to do the Book Edie. Is that what you called it?
Book Edie, yeah.
Yep. And Midmod and the coffee shop.
Wild
I've been there. Yeah. Actually, I've been to Knoxville quite a few times before this trip. And I'm always like asking for places like that to go to. So I've definitely been to that coffee shop. And I've also been to a couple other coffee shops.
So that couple that owns that are the same one who owned Java in the Old City.
Okay. I haven't been there, but I went to Honeybee Coffee and K-Brew.
K-Brew and Java are the two nerdy coffee shops.
Okay.
Like, they take that shit seriously. Like, Pierce at K-Brew and Sean at Java are both like, this is like the greatest beans that are, that kind of...
Killer latte.
Love them to... Oh, okay.
And their bagel sandwiches were on point.
So that's the funny story I love that Sean told me about Wild Love is Meg, his wife, is the head baker. They're sweet as hell. He cracks me up because he's an old punk rocker dude. And then Meg's just this tiny, sweet, quiet person. And same thing, like tats and all this stuff. I was like, Meg, you have been nothing but like, you seem like a sweet Southern lady. Like they're both amazing.
It's mainly pastries over there, right?
Yes. Yeah,
I was asking the other day about if there were any like old school bakeries in town that do like a good rye bread or like sourdoughs.
There is. Paisan. And
okay.
It's next to another good coffee shop called Remedy. And it's not far away. It's on the way to downtown. It's next to an old historic graveyard where a lot of like soldiers and stuff are buried, a veteran cemetery.
Wait, where's that at?
Paisan. So Central is the road that Wild Love is on.
Okay, going like close to downtown, is the cemetery right there?
Yes.
Like, okay, I was passing that the other day, and I was like, "That's a cool looking
It's
cemetery."
on a side street called Tyson. Paisan and Remedy is right there. Remedy's coffee is pretty good. They have good pastries too. But Wild Love, so before they built that, Sean told me this story, and I love this, so I tell it every time I can. There was a guy, because I love this part of it. There was a guy that hung out at Java that split the year between Nice, France, and Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
That's the funniest thing is, yeah.
It's two favorite places.
Yeah. It's like, I hang out in New Zealand and in Calabasas, California.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. Yeah, no biggie. But he was Frenchman. And so Meg started making the pastries in the back of Java and made croissants. And she would bring them out to him. And he'd be like, "This is shit."
I was going to say, he's judging him. Yeah, he's like, "This is garbage."
It took her 2 years to perfect it. But when she perfected it, she said, Sean said, she took it out there, gave it to him. He took a bite, immediately stood up, walked past Sean into the back of the coffee shop and said, "I must kiss your wife now." And he went back there and kissed her. He was like, "This is the best croissant I've had outside of France." And not only that, I'm friends with a private chef who is from Paris, and I met up with her there to talk about her website, and she got one, and she had to stop talking to me. She was like, "I'm not kidding. I've been gone from Paris for 6 years. This is the best thing, and this may be as good, if not better, than what I've had in Paris."
Yeah, croissants are super hard to make. Like, not even worth me even trying.
So
I'm going to check it out. I'll be the judge of that.
Well,
I'll be the judge of that as well.
Well, I'm 1-0 right now. 1-for-1 right now.
Right. Well, I haven't listened to your podcast on dating yet, so I still have to get
La
back.
Esperanza.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You're right.
I'm 1-0.
Okay, you are 1-0.
Oh yeah, yeah. Go to Wild Love before you can listen to the dating one.
Okay.
Holy shit! I may get a text like, "You are an asshole."
You know what? Just delete the whole podcast.
Just delete.
I'm out of here.
I don't want to be associated with you, you dickhead. Oh my god. But yeah, Wild Love. I should make a list of like, here's the. I know.
Yeah.
I think I just usually go with. They're like, "Okay, where are we going?" I was like, "Oh, let's go here."
When I was here 2 weeks ago, we had an Airbnb that was next to. I never say it right. Is it Ollie B?
Ollie Bay.
Ollie Bay.
Yeah.
And I went over there and it was killer. We actually ate breakfast over there almost like every morning that I was here.
So
spent a lot of money over there.
Oh yeah. So that's the weird sleeper thing about Knoxville. So now here will be the questions like, wait, has Jess and Wes told you about this? And if not, I'm going to be like, I'm going to be having a little chat with them about. They need to be better ambassadors.
I have a couple friends here that have been pointing me in different directions of stuff, but usually it's me like prying. Like I'm like, so tell me where I can go to get this or this.
With me, you'll just get a list.
That's what I need, though.
Okay, you just get a list.
But like all the good random things, you know.
Oh yeah. So there's a place called Clinton, Tennessee.
Okay.
Small town, kind of country. Is known for like having an antique kind of road. Here's the best part. They have a great coffee shop that is a coffee shop tattoo parlor.
Oh, great. So you can get your latte and your new boyfriend's name tattooed on you.
Done. Yeah. But the best part.
Sounds totally sanitary.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it is. Like, it is actually like legit. And the guy, so my buddy Adam from Refill Coffee Cart, this is just going to be name dropping the entire time. So he and I we have these marketing meetings where we just meet up and bullshit for like 4 or 5 hours.
Is that like a safety meeting?
Like yeah. Oh yeah, I do air quotes because we talk marketing. We talk business but we bullshit. Like, the first time I ever got kicked out of a Waffle House, I just had the anniversary. It was 4 or 5 years ago.
Like, and it's the first time.
It was. And then I got threatened by a police officer less than a week later at that same Waffle House. I was like, I can't go back there a third time. I will die.
Yep, that's it for you.
Yeah. And, but anyway, so, Adam, marketing meetings. So I would always find these hole-in-the-wall places. As like, let's go check this place out. So we went out to Clinton and checked that place out, and then we always talk to the owners because we don't give a shit. Like we sat there for like 3 hours in the most uncomfortable chairs. I was like, We were both too big.
Which side were you on? Were you on the coffee shop side or the tattoo
So
parlor
the coffee
side?
shop, you walk upstairs, it's on the second floor, and the place where you order the coffee is right there. And then you walk down a hallway, and there's a front room where there were seats. But then you walk through a back door, and the entire back half is the tattoo parlor.
Okay, so it is separate.
Oh yeah, totally separate. So
it's not like just some guy who's like pulling his gloves off to like fix you some espresso.
So although probably. So no, here's what makes that a funny statement. Start talking to the dude, and we're like, what in the hell in Clinton? Like, what the hell is this? Like, what? And he was like, oh yeah. And then we got talking. And I was like, oh man, are you from around here? He's like, yeah man, I used to be head of security at Moose's Music Hall, this music venue that was on the Strip. There's another name, the Strip. Avoid the Strip at all costs.
Which strip is the Strip?
Cumberland Avenue is the Strip. That's where the college is. Okay. And it is a nightmare of chains. Like, it's, if you want to go to Crystal or McDonald's and you want it to be a nightmare to park, welcome to the Strip.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
so Moose's used to be this cool music venue on the Strip that my buddy and I, when we were in college, and then after college, we went to shit tons of metal shows.
Okay, were there metal shows here at one point?
Oh, a huge metal scene.
Because that's the other thing I've been asking about. I'm like, is there a punk and metal scene here anymore?
Metal, not as much, and punk was after that, and it's kind of gone away. It's very like singer-songwriter Americana, but kind of rock.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that. The punk and metal is not, it's just not as big as it used to be. But Moose's, like, okay, so if you know metal, so there was one night we went on a Monday, and it was $5.
Metal Monday?
No, we would go to 4 shows a week. And it was, so this one, it was Spine Shank.
Sick name.
Yeah, I think there were 4 or 5 bands. So here's the ones I remember. Spine Shank was the opening act. I'm not going to tell you who the second band up was because it was still light when they went on. And there was Head PE, who's maybe the worst band ever. Yeah. I've seen them twice. And then Fear Factory.
Oh my God.
Fear Factory with night. Earbuds. I still could not hear for a few days. They shook the walls. So the second band were this little band that nobody had heard of, and they had a few copies of their CD that was not released yet. And they were weird, and they sang weird, and their lead singer looked like Frank Zappa on acid, and that band was System of a Down. Like the CD copy I have.
Man, I haven't heard the name Head PE in so long, but that's what it was around was System of a Down.
System of a Down. The copy of their CD I have is like a pre-press version of it. And I was like, they were unbelievable. Head PE. Ugh. Anyway.
That was a weird genre of music. Yeah, that's a little bit different spectrum of metal than I'm into, but I can imagine.
Okay, so what kind of metal are you into? And I can't even remember why I was talking about Moose's Music Hall, but before I forget, because I don't want to miss the thread. So I'm talking to the guy, and he was like, I was head of security at Moose's Music Hall, and he was a bigger dude, and I was like, you've probably thrown me out of Moose's Music Hall. He's like, I let other people do that. And I was like, oh no, I said, you probably check my ID. And he was like, I let other people do that. And I was like, okay, you probably threw me out. And he looked me up and down. He's like, probably.
Probably. That's what they called him in for. They were like, we're going to need you to take this guy out.
Oh, the first show we went to, I had to help the bouncers because there was a younger dude who looked like Superman, although he was only like 5'8", that he was just all shoulders and muscle. And the pit was beating the shit out of him to where during one act, I was just holding him because he kept stepping on my feet. And then I finally just stood next to him. And I was like, I'm just not going to let anybody hit him. And they would come my way and I would just elbow him.
Are there any venues in town that still do metal shows at all? Like
there's a place.
Shows?
I don't know what it's called now because it's changed names 20 times. It was the Electric Ballroom, the Valerium. I have no idea what it's called now. It's called Blackstock for a while. Whatever that venue is, they will still have metal. They have metal and rap. And like that's the only place that has kind of that.
Actually, I feel like that's kind of how a lot of venues that do punk and metal, they'll have like hip hop nights or club nights, and that's kind of how they offset the huge losses they take for the metal shows.
Yeah. Oh no, how they do that is they have dance nights.
Yep.
Because I have a friend that DJs at one of those, and those are
keep the doors open.
Those are packed to the gills. But like we're so close to like Nashville, and like I've driven over there to see, and we've had some here, Like I saw Social Distortion here, and I
never know how to.
I never know how to claim Social Distortion. I was like, are they rock? Are they rockabilly? Are they punk? They're kind of their own thing.
Kind of all of it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, like I think
early Social Distortion, the sympathetic look, the makeup, Mike Ness. You know.
Yeah,
it's a good look.
Could you pull this a little bit tighter?
Yeah.
I got cranked up all the way, but there we go.
I've been known to mumble.
Okay, so what kind of metal are you in?
All of it, but new wave British heavy metal, like old, early metal. Yeah, definitely. Doom metal, sludge metal, anything but like System of a Down style, like new metal.
Okay. I may have some band. There's a band.
Black metal.
What?
Black metal.
Okay. There was a record. I don't know if you saw it when you passed through the office, the wall of 3,000 CDs.
No.
Yeah. And then there's 3 shelves of records and a 4 shelf of records.
Yeah, I'm a big vinyl collector too.
So there was a record label called Century Media. That's what, like, I think Sepultura was on them, but like they had a lot of independent acts, and I was re-listening to a band I love called Chum, that they're like a sludgy metal, but there is a band out of Nashville. Shit, I'm going to forget their name. All Them Witches.
Oh yeah, that's like
it's almost like
psych rock. Kinda.
It's almost like blues metal to me.
It's bluesy kind of. Yeah.
And those guys played Barley's here, and they are one of the tightest bands for just being 3 dudes.
I actually dig them a lot.
Yeah. So they're out of Nashville, which I think is hilarious.
I didn't know that.
And funnily,
his voice is good. He's got a good voice.
So funnily enough, I talked about them with a friend of mine, or online friend, Matt, who's a designer out of Louisiana. I was like, he said something about metal. I was like, oh man, there's this band out in Nashville called All Them. He's like, holy shit, I listen to them all the time. I was like, oh yeah, they're great.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of that stuff too.
Clutch. Do you like it? Or is Clutch too bluesy?
Oh man, it's the vocals. Man, this conversation about Clutch I've had with a lot of people in Louisiana love Clutch. I'm not a huge fan of them. The vocals, it's just too much. It gets me.
I'm going to make you walk out of this right now because I'm going to tell you a story.
Conversation, because I will run out of this conversation.
No. So I went to a show at the Civic Coliseum. This was early 2000s, 2003, 2004. And shit, I'm going to forget. 3 bands. The first one was this band called Theory of a Dead Man.
Not familiar.
When I get to the last band, the big act produced Theory of a Dead Man.
Okay.
So then Clutch was the next act, and they got booed off the stage and were fucking terrible.
Where was this show?
At the Civic Coliseum. Big stadium. But when I tell you the main act, that's where you're going to walk out. So Clutch sucked, and I love Clutch now. I did not know that I loved them then. And the main act went out and absolutely destroyed. And that band is called Nickelback.
See, actually, I should just not talk about Clutch. Because
So Nickelback, Chad Kroeger produced Theory of a Dead Man, their album. I don't even think they're from Canada. I don't even know how they got connected. But Clutch was the weirdest pairing for Nickelback. And Nickelback was great. Everybody shits on them. They were great live. And they came out and did the song from Spider-Man at the end. And it was awesome. They did it acoustic, like...
God, who the hell did I see? I saw Clutch play in New Orleans one time, but honestly, I can't even remember who I saw them play with.
But that's a weird pairing, Clutch and Nickelback.
Well, maybe. You know, I don't like either of those bands, so really it'd just be one big show for me to avoid.
Yeah. Then you're not going to like Theory of a Dead Man because they sound exactly like Nickelback. Man. But it was weird in that... I defend Nickelback a little bit. I was like, Katy Perry.
You got a little sensitive about it.
I was like, Katy Perry sucks. She doesn't write her own music. She can't sing as well as Aretha Franklin. I was like, but Katy Perry's given a pass. And Nickelback, those guys write their own songs, play their own, and they're good players. Even if you don't like them, I was like, they've turned into stripper music. Like,
yeah.
And I made this argument with one buddy of mine who's a musician, and he got very angry at me. And I love this band, and I will fight anyone who says anything about this band. I love AC/DC.
Oh, well, okay.
I said if AC/DC had come out in 2003, people would shit on them like they shit on Nickelback. Because AC/DC is also stripper music. They sing about being rock and roll stars.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't. You're telling me you want to put Nickelback and AC/DC in the same box?
No. I'm saying if AC/DC...
Bro, I'm leaving.
I should just hit end right there. That would be the best.
That's it.
No, and I'm not... What I'm saying is if they had come out later, I think people would shit on them like people shit on Nickelback. Because anytime I hear anybody shit on Nickelback, I feel like they're either trying to be cool or they're saying they're stripper music.
What was the transition point for Nickelback? Like
Moose's music. Oh,
no, I mean like, obviously everybody now is like Nickelback is shit, but like, was there a pivotal moment in Nickelback's career that like made them shit, or did they just come out as shit for most people?
I don't know.
Was there a movie?
No.
Like what's that?
He was nominated for
Coyote Ugly. No, or what's the one where they're dancing on the bar? Was
That's
it
Coyote.
in that?
Were they in that?
Well, I don't know.
Oh.
That'd be crazy if they were.
No, I don't know what it was. I think it just hit
overplayed on the radio.
I think it hit a tipping point to where I tell you, here, I'm going to make fun of somebody that I don't like. I think it was a lot of like the Strokes fans who were like, well, Nickelback sucks. I was like, well, I don't like the Strokes. So like, I think it was just people that were too cool. It was too cool. Because they weren't Limp Bizkit. They weren't rap metal. They weren't Korn.
No, what were they? What are they?
They're just a rock and roll band. But they did start really leaning into like the stripper kind of music. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I support.
When you say that, are you implying that like while they're writing their music, they're envisioning a stripper dancing to it as they're riffing it out? They're like bedroom riffing and imagining there's a pole in the room.
Of course. Isn't that how everybody?
Yeah, that's how everybody writes
No, but
their
it's,
music.
I think about like a lot of like the bro country where they're like, I'm going to write this song and people are going to play in a bar and have a good time.
Yep.
So I think Nickelback, it's more like, we're going to play this on stage and everybody's going to raise
they're
their
like
beers.
Good boy.
Yeah.
Good guy. Frat bar.
But you go back to their first couple albums and it's just rocking, like all their albums are just rock and roll music. It's weird.
I'm probably not going to go back to their first couple
That's
albums,
fine.
but I will take your word for it that those first couple albums.
One of my buddies, Lath, who may be the best guitar player I've ever met in my life, so much so that he started playing a oud because he got bored with the guitar. He was over here and he was going through my CDs. He was like, there's so many Nickelback albums here. I was like, bro, you haven't even got to the Limp Bizkit down there, man. There's Limp Bizkit. I was like, and when you're done with that, there's 3 Spice Girls albums down there.
I just can't even with you, man.
3 Spice Girls albums. But next to the Spice Girls is...
I would put that on. I would jam the Spice Girls, though.
Next to Spice Girls is Sepultura. Like, it's 3,000 CDs.
It's alphabetized?
Oh, yeah. I would never be able to find anything if I didn't alphabetize.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Spice Girls next to Sepultura.
Yeah. Oh, it's the weirdest.
It's a whole mood.
It's the weirdest. Like, you'll be going through and be like, why do you have this TLC album? I was like,
because it fucking jams. That's
honestly,
why.
I bought it for my sister and somebody else bought it for her, and it was still in the shrink wrap. I was like, I'll take it over to the disc exchange, which I wish was still here because you would have loved it. I took it over there and I set it down. I was like, can I get credit or money? And they're like, we already have a lot of these.
Yeah.
So, no.
Sorry, buddy.
Damn it. So I was like, screw it. And I just put it up on the wall.
Yeah, I actually don't have any CDs anymore. I only have records. I don't have cassettes, VHS, anything like that.
I uncovered a lot of cassettes in the basement, a lot of mixtapes. I got to go through those. And I was like, ooh, this goes from Silk to Tom Petty to Pavarotti. What the fuck? Like, what was I drinking back then?
All that stuff just takes up so much space. I mean, records do too, you know?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to circle back around to... Have you ever heard of ISIS?
Yes.
See, I love ISIS. That's called post-metal. So post-rock is like explosions in the sky, this will destroy you, Godspeed You Black Emperor. And then post-metal is like ISIS, Pelican,
yep.
All those bands.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of kind of math metal too, you know?
Okay.
I listen to all kinds of music, all that stuff. But we could just go, We just pause all this and just listen to all the medals.
I got my record player in there.
3,000 CDs in one night. Can it be done?
God knows how many records I've got at this point. It's uncomfortable how many records I have. This was the funniest.
And we haven't even looked in the basement. Who knows what's down there?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's no CDs. There's tapes. So I went to this. I was up in Mountain City, Tennessee, and I went to this antique shop, and I bought this because of the cover. And bought that because of the cover. Because I think these covers are gorgeous.
Yep, that one's probably pretty rad.
It's
fantasy on pipe organs.
This sounds like the voices of the Middle Ages. Sounds like something out of a horror film. Like it's so ominous. This one, I was listening to it when I got on a Zoom with a buddy of mine. And he was like, "What the fuck are you listening to?" I was like, "Hey man, that's this cool pipe organ." It sounds like some Czech Republic kind of. It's wild.
I'm into it.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to be. I'm trying to think. Yeah, you missed Disc Exchange. Disc Exchange was awesome. It's this massive shop that was just like used CDs. It was next. So the Book Edie that was by Midmod used to be over next to Disc Exchange in South Knoxville. Now it's a baby store.
Is there another strip of South Knoxville that I'm missing aside from what's kind of on the riverfront? Is there another area?
Yeah. South Knoxville's pretty freaking massive. Oh God, and you haven't even seen the Shire over there.
Oh, someone was just telling me about that there's a man that's making hobbit houses over there.
Yeah.
I just heard about that, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
It's expensive as shit to stay there.
Oh, you can
stay there.
Like Airbnb them?
Yeah. But I think it's like...
But how much is really expensive?
I think 4 figures.
What? For a night?
A night.
What the fuck kind of experience are you getting in these hobbit houses?
Rich people.
Do they provide you with hobbits? Hobbits included?
They make up your feet every morning and put individual hair strands in there.
Sick.
Wait, is that sick in a good way or bad?
No, the best way possible for sure.
But South Knoxville, it's weird. Like you go down like Sevier and Island Home, and that's one thing. Like Island Home's pretty expensive.
Those houses are super cute over there.
And then you have Iams and Baker Creek back in there, or you can go across the Henley Street Bridge onto Chapman, which is a big 5-lane highway that goes all the way to Pigeon Forge, where Dollywood and all that shit is. And it's all like Hardee's.
Oh, like just sprawl.
Yeah, just sprawl. There's a lot of nice houses, a lot of neighborhoods, but then you can go down along the river and go back in there into like Vestal and Candor Marble, to where there's some really cool. There's an old marblery, whatever, that it is a building that is now an artist.
Are those like little space. Boroughs, or are those like actual
Vestal
cities?
Candor Marble is an actual place that now they've opened it up to where artists have studios in there, and it's really cool. There's a great opera company here in town called Marble City Opera. My buddy Brandon is the marketing guy. That they will do opera in the most random places. So they did one in Candor.
I love that.
To where it was 30 of us in this room that was less wide than this, and there was one woman performing with like this old school Chase Lounge kind of looking thing. Hey, I pulled a fancy furniture.
You did?
I almost said couch, and I was like, no, it's more like a Chase Lounge.
Oh, there you go.
And she performed just to us, and would like come up and grab you, and unbelievable. They did one in the square at a church downtown, to where it was 10, 20 women performing this piece. And we were all just sitting in fold-up chairs. Like, it's unbelievable.
I'd love to see something like that.
My buddy Brandon is a black man, and he wrote a opera called I Can't Breathe about George Floyd. And it's going to be produced next spring.
That's brutal.
Yeah. So
I love all that, though, like theater, dance, all that stuff. I take my daughter to go see that stuff. The symphony. I actually have never seen an opera. I haven't had the chance to see an opera yet, but ballet,
the main opera is called Knoxville Opera, and God love him, it's a little stuffy and old. and like dress up and all that shit.
But I kind of love that too. Like
Yeah.
an off night, like you put on a nice outfit and go see something like that, and just like
I usually go like Sunday afternoons where it's like, okay, I can just wear a pair
whatever.
of dark jeans, like black jeans, and button up. Hell, I'm always wearing a button up shirt, so a button up shirt. I got to see a performance of Romeo and Juliet.
I thought I heard you say on your podcast that you only wear shorts. So you will actually put on pants for the opera?
Yes, I actually own.
I found the loophole.
A pair of black jeans, a pair of blue jeans, a suit, and I think I got like 2 or 3 pairs of kind of dress slacks because I was dating a woman who was a wedding photographer, and I would have to help her. It was like middle of the summer, and I was like, I've got to get some kind of lightweight slack because I couldn't wear shorts, and jeans were just too dense. Like I would be choking. So I had to buy like 2 or 3 pairs of lightweight slacks. So I have those in there that I have not worn in God knows when. So when I help my buddy with the coffee cart, I have to wear black jeans. I'm like, damn it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Try to help somebody out, and they make you wear pants.
But I can't remember if I said this on there. I love it because I'm so known for wearing shorts that I was like walking down this happens actually a lot. I'll be walking down the street and all of a sudden, like a female friend of mine, like let's say Aaron Donovan, will be like, "Oh my God, I've never seen you in pants before." It's like, yell that out a little bit louder for everybody to hear. And I was like, and it always takes people like a second to be like, "What? Oh shit, no, he's just always wearing shorts." When I go on dates, I usually wear pants. So
That's kind of like lying, though. You're like setting yourself up for failure with that, though.
I finally relaxed that a little bit.
Okay,
I also used to tuck in polo shirts when I went into khakis when I went on dates in my 20s. So.
Now, do you just do like the front half of your shirts?
No, I don't tuck in shit.
Like what do they call that? The like French tuck or whatever?
No, I got to be different. I tuck in the back.
Just the back. One side. I have seen that's a thing now.
Oh, God,
just tucking in the one side of your
I made
little polo shirt.
So Rebecca, the mindful manifesting.
Yeah.
So I got this jacket because she fussed at me on that podcast about spreading my, peacocking a little bit. She's like, "You need to walk into a room and let people." I was like, "No, I don't. I don't want anybody to know who the hell I am." But I bought this jacket that's like a blue corduroy with the kind of fluff thing there, and I was like.
Like a Levi's looking like corduroy jacket, like a 70s looking one.
Yeah,
all right.
But it's new, but it looks like that. And I was like, I don't know, this feels too flashy for me. And she's like, "This is not flashy." I was like, "It is for me. Please acknowledge that it is for me." Like, because I pulled out like a raincoat. I was like, "This is what I normally wear." Come on, man, just give me.
You know what? I'm going to acknowledge that that's a big deal for you.
Thank you.
I acknowledge that.
That's all I need. Hey.
I see you. I hear you. I'm here for it.
And I've got it recorded around 30 minutes. I'm going to just clip that out. Anyway. But yeah, South Knoxville is kind of big and vast. That's kind of like North Knoxville. You have Old North, which is kind of rich. These big old houses that they fixed up.
Like the historic district?
Yeah. Fourth and Gill.
Yeah.
But then you have this, which is like North Knox, which is more working class. And you have Fountain City, which is kind of like the homes in North Knox, but I wouldn't say double the price, but add on to it.
I actually have been asking about school zones, obviously, because I have a daughter, and that's what I heard is that
school zones, Fountain City is really good. I'm trying to think where else. Some of the West Knoxville schools, it's just too expensive to live in West Knoxville. Like you can go to good schools out there, but you can find good schools.
I just prefer the feel of this area, just having centralized shopping, and there's like, working class people for the most part. That's what it feels like. This feels like
back roads, 8 minutes to downtown from here. Yeah.
Everything's super close.
Or hop on the interstate and be down the road in no time.
I have a lot of friends in this neighborhood too, so of course for me it's like ideal.
The sad part is housing prices are going up so much.
You want to hear something crazy though? Like I actually don't know the population of Lafayette, but the cost of living in Lafayette is pretty much exactly the same as here, and it is tiny compared to Knoxville. So when I was looking at rental prices, because I'm gonna have to find a rental, I was actually super surprised that like you can live here for the same price as Lafayette. Like everyone here is like, oh, it's so expensive. I'm like, yeah, but for an actual city, it's really not that bad.
I think our rental prices are actually fair, if not a little bit cheap.
It really depends on what you're trying to do. I can see that people have like flipped houses, and those ones are like spiked super high from the remodels. But like you can still find. I drove past and called on a couple little places, and it was like, yeah, totally reasonable.
Yeah. That's what's funny about this house is 2,400 square feet, and I bought it when I was 25 for $83,500.
That's what my homegirl Cindy, her house too. She bought it for somewhere around there, and it's like the cost that what she can get for it now is like outrageous.
Oh yeah, I have not looked that up. I'm afraid to look that, but I can't afford to rebuy. That's a constant conversation in this friend group I'm in, because one of the guys really wants to buy more property, and he's like, but then we can't afford. Him and his wife are like, we can't afford to move anywhere. So they finally, like the last few months, they're like, you know what? We're just going to really soup up our house, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to put more money into it, because they bought it. What's it called? Foreclosed. And they bought it for like $36,000 or something.
Pennies.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And I was like, yeah, pay that damn thing off. Quit paying on it every month. Just pay the damn thing off. Anyway. Yeah, housing market's super weird. Schools are odd. Like, the school I went to is Fulton. And it's a good school, but it has a bad reputation because it was really rough when I went there.
I mean, that's how my daughter's school has the same kind of thing. Kind of a bad reputation, but some of the programs, she's in Gifted and Talented, and they had a Spanish immersion program at her school, so it's like a bad school. But also, I went to public school.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And I think they actually have like a...
Those are just real people, real kids.
Fulton Academy, but it's like where the rich kids want their kids to get the street cred of going to Fulton, but they go to an academy.
Right.
Yeah, which I think you have to have a scholarship or a lot of money to get into. So it's so funny.
Yeah, I'm not scared of school zones. You know, that doesn't really.
And I know a bunch of the teachers. They're great teachers up there that really could. There was somebody I was talking to about Fulton the other day. I was like, Fulton is one of the best community schools in this city. Like, everybody that there gives a shit. The parents know one another. Everybody goes, they support the football team. They support, sports. It's a big sports school. And everybody just cares about one another. Because it's a lot of legacy. Like, my parents went there. My uncles went there. My grandmother even got her GED there in, like, the 80s. And then I went there, and my little sister went there. Like, and a lot of the teachers have been there, some of them the whole time. There's like 2 or 3 teachers that were there when my dad and uncles were there in the late 60s. So they actually give a shit there. Like, that's what I like.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of emailing back and forth with the school board here, which is just terrifying for me. I have one kid, so everything's brand new for me. Every step I take, I'm like, I have to call over there now and start to talk to people, and that's just not going to be fun at all.
One good thing is our mayor, I think the only public office she held before becoming mayor was on the school board.
All right.
India Kincannon. Yep.
Well, maybe I'll give her a call.
She's hilarious. Yeah. I laughed that I was on with somebody on Monday recording this, and then I recorded with a woman from Austin, Texas, and both of them and a couple in Orlando. And half of the podcast was me talking about how awesome Knoxville was.
I mean, I'm sold on it.
Yeah. It's insane. That's what's going to be funny about anybody listening to this. It's like, wasn't she going to talk about upholstery? I was like, yeah, we'll get there. Get there.
Yeah, but I'm happy to have a conversation about moving here with everybody that I'm talking to, because it's, I want to know when I get here what to be looking out for and what, all that stuff. It'll keep me busy when I get here too, looking for all this stuff.
So I will say, there's a couple saving graces of West Knoxville. This is not a West Knoxville fan podcast.
I see that.
Do you and your daughter like ice cream?
Yes. I mean,
the best ice cream in town is in a gourmet grilled cheese shop in West Knoxville called It's Also Yummy Cafe.
Oh, great name.
Kim is the owner, and she is a badass. She's writing a cookbook right now.
It's Also Yummy. Oh, it's All So Yummy
Cafe.
I thought it was. It's Also Yummy.
No. Oh, no. I got it. And her husband, Wade, is the one who makes all the ice cream. Hand makes the ice cream.
Okay. It's ice cream. It's not gelato.
No, it's ice cream.
And
it's legit ice cream. But the funniest is Wade is also like an MMA trainer or something.
This is the ice cream man?
Yeah.
That's how he got into it. He's like, man, I had to figure out a way to pack on some pounds. Got into ice cream.
He's the sweetest, most soft-spoken man in the world. He's awesome. And Kim, God love her, she's loud and proud and awesome. Like the text threads I have with her and her friend Carrie are just hilarious.
Is it classic ice cream or is it like weird flavored?
No, it's like flavored. But they have classic shit. But like one of the ones that the kids love the most, she has a bubblegum flavored ice cream.
Okay.
That is legit. But she had one, what was that one that I had that I almost couldn't finish? It was like peach habanero. And it was, or peach jalapeno. And I was like, it is hurting my throat. Like I can take heat, but holy fuck, man, did you put all the seeds in here? Like it is so.
So do you feel like that was a bad idea to make that flavor?
No,
then?
it was delicious, but it was just so hot.
Like I don't want to stop, but
Yeah.
it hurts so bad.
Yeah. Oh, I finished it. Damn it, I hurt, but yeah. And she does like monthly grilled cheese soup and sandwich specials. She did a hot chicken soup that I tell her is like, please bring that back. That may be the most delicious thing.
My daughter would like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good place to
But
take her.
she's the best, and all our workers are awesome. And yeah, Wade, he's so quiet, but we've got a few MMA guys who fight for the UFC. They're from here, and he has trained like 2 or 3 of them, and he's the ice cream man. He's the one who makes the ice cream. She has a challenge called the Rocky Top Challenge that has like 3 pounds of brownies. Like it's in a bowl.
That's how he gets those big gains. It was his idea.
So, and I'm trying to think, like 30 people took it on and lost, and then a female, which Kim loved that part. A female professional eater came in and beat it. So she had originally put man and then Rocky Top, and she had like marked, and it was like nothing on the man's side. So when that woman won it, she changed it to woman. Rocky Top 30 something. Like she's the best. She's fucking hilarious. She keeps telling me, she's like, you need to come do it. I was like, I can't eat all that in an hour. You give me 2 hours, I'll finish that shit. But 1 hour, or maybe like 45 minutes, is like, you're out of your mind.
I might have to check this challenge out.
If you do it, I want to be there. And you might have to start a GoFundMe before to pay for it.
No way.
Afterwards. I did an ice cream challenge. I got down to that much left in the bowl, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't finish it because it was shitty ice cream. It was somewhere else.
Oh, that's what it was?
Oh,
the ice cream sucked.
It was shitty ice cream. It was
Sounds
shitty.
like somebody's a sore loser.
No, because I had this conversation with Kim. I was like, if it was your ice cream, I would have finished it. But it just made me want to vomit. Like it was just the shittiest. You could taste the chemicals and stuff. Oh, it was so bad. That place is not around anymore, so I can shit on them.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Trying to think anything.
So that's the only good thing about West Knoxville.
There's a couple
ice cream made by an MMA fighter and gourmet grilled cheeses in one building.
And there's a diner way the fuck out in West Knoxville, almost to Oak Ridge, called Nick and Jay's Cafe. That their breakfast and lunch are legit. Like, but they're only
Old
open
school diner.
Yes,
Like a classic breakfast.
Oh Jesus! They're in an old Huddle House. Yeah, do you know Huddle House is like a Waffle House knockoff?
Yep.
I wasn't sure how far they stretched out because you never really see Huddle Houses. That's why I never know.
I see them traveling around,
But it's literally an old Huddle House.
I don't think we have a Huddle House near us in Louisiana. I don't know.
But yeah, Nick and Jay's.
Definitely a ton of Waffle Houses.
Oh, I love Waffle House.
Mm-hmm.
Nick and Jay's, I think they're Greek. The owners, maybe not Greek, but they're awesome.
Is their menu done like where they have some Greek food on the menu?
The desserts.
Because
some of them are.
My
And they have Heroes. And
I lived up in Detroit for a while, and all the Coney Islands there, it's like diner food, and then whatever the family, their recipes, and there's a lot of Greek-owned Coney Islands up there.
That's
so it's
awesome.
like you can get a good breakfast or like spinach pie, Greek salad.
I'm going to pivot because now I'm trying to think if they are. I don't know.
See, if you just give me a list.
Yeah. And the one place that growing up was my favorite place, and here's where we're going to end on talking food talk. Although it keeps breaking my heart because more new people come down, go there and hate it, and I want to punch them. There's a place over here called Louis. It's an Italian place. Louis.
Oh.
Louis. Oh, Jesus. Louis. It's Italian food made by a Greek man, Gus. And their spaghetti sauce is spicy and meaty and unbelievable. And a buddy of mine who is from New Jersey and also New York, I love saying both because he gets mad when I point out that he actually is from Jersey, even though he lived in New York for like 10 years.
But he's from Jersey.
But he went there, he's like, it's too greasy. It's like, that's the good part. In fact, when they moved from one location to another, my dad was like, can I come help maintain all the grease on the grill? When you move it across,
yeah, can we just move this over to the new location?
Yes, that was like Dad's
it's like
a truck driver.
Fryer oil.
Dad's a truck driver. He was like, I'm going to figure out how to do this shit. It will not. None of the grease will fall.
He's like, what we got to do is we got to cool it down and then scrape it off in a sheet and then move the sheet over.
He was adamant. He was like, I will help. And it is like if you're from this area, there are a lot of people from this area like, no, that's the best restaurant in the country. Like,
is it like a little place or is it?
It's a big place.
It's a big place.
It was a little place. It was so funny. So the old location, I think it was two brothers who opened it. They had a fight. This is the best. They had a fight. One of the other brothers left and opened a restaurant right next door. Guess what the name of that restaurant was?
Louis 2.
Louis.
So it was Louis and Louis.
Yep.
That's a dick move.
So the original one is called the Original Louis.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like in our family, Dad's birthday, Mom's birthday, sister's birthday, my birthday, Father's Day, Mother's Day, they get to go on that Sunday. We eat Louis, and we've ate the same meal since I was a kid.
So the two locations aren't across the street from each other anymore?
No, they tore down the old locations. Because they changed the exit. It's at the interstate up here at 640. So they went right through where the old location was. So they moved down the road into a location that's 5 to 10 times the size of their old location. It was tiny. And because I knew about it and I, without going into detail, had money in high school for selling nefarious things.
Right.
That's where I would take all my dates.
I gotcha.
Yeah, that's where I would take all my dates. I didn't realize this is audio only. I could have done this.
Yeah, right. You could have just totally done a little hand gesture.
Yeah.
We're going to have to clip that part out, right?
What's the No, I don't give a shit. But all my friends would take dates to McDonald's, and I would take them to Louis. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, hey, guys, McDonald's is $5. Louis is $9. Like, it's not that much more expensive. Right, yeah. I was like, it just looks fancier. Like, it's so stupid. I was like, a number 3 at Louis, which is what I've always got. Spaghetti, hamburger steak, onion rings. It was like $9.99.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Repeat that again. What came in the number 3?
Spaghetti.
Okay.
Hamburger steak.
You lost me on the hamburger steak. Like, what is that doing on the spaghetti?
No, it's separate. Hamburger steak and spaghetti.
So spaghetti here, and then is there like a brown gravy with the hamburger steak?
No. I actually chop up the hamburger steak and mix it in with the spaghetti.
Is it just a hamburger then?
It's like...
It's a big fat boy.
Yeah. But they have like lasagna.
The onion rings. What are the onion rings doing in there?
The onion rings they are almost the best. They are great.
I'm so confused right now.
So no. Oh, no. It gets even worse. So my old roommate, Candace.
What's the number 1?
Maybe lasagna.
Okay.
Or chicken parmesan, maybe. It's always a combo. So it's something else. Chicken parm and something else. I don't know. I always get the number 3. I've gotten the number 3 since I was like 7 years old. So, and now it's like $25 for a number 3. Like it's gone way up. Yeah, it's.
And I bet your friends from high school are still taking their dates to McDonald's.
Probably, and it's probably closer to $25 to go to McDonald's.
It's the same. It's $9 now to go to McDonald's.
Maybe. I don't know. I have not had fast food in like 16 years. So
congratulations,
Louis. I took my old roommate Candace, who is from West Knoxville, to Louis, and we go up. And when you order that meal or lasagna or whatever, you get your They're like, what dressing would you like on your salad? And she told them a dressing. And I was like, amateur move. Can I get onion rings instead of my salad? And they're like, yes. They brought me a plate full of onion rings. And so she got the salad. I'm not kidding. It's like 3 pieces of lettuce, 1 thing of red onion, and maybe some carrot shards.
I mean, but are the onion rings on the menu, or is that like a secret thing?
No, they're on there.
So is that the like Italian side or the Greek side of it? Like, where are the onion rings coming from?
So here's the other thing.
Also, it being a combo meal, like what is it served in? What vessel is holding a hamburger, steak, spaghetti, and onion rings in one platter?
It's just on a platter. It's on a plate.
You know, I'm going to have, when I have $25 to spend on onion rings and spaghetti.
You don't have to, just get the spaghetti. The spaghetti's the real good thing. Lasagna is essentially, it tastes like the spaghetti. It's the same meat sauce, but it's just a lot more expensive, a lot less food. Yeah. So I had a friend that she got the lasagna. I was like, I'd get the spaghetti because it's essentially the same thing. But there's a place over in East Knoxville called Pizza Palace that a lot of people swear by, and it is the biggest competitor to Louis'. And I just don't like it. But I will say, they have better onion rings. Their onion rings are the best onion rings in town.
Where?
Pizza Palace. It's in East Knoxville.
Again. Are onion rings a thing here?
No. But their onion rings, both of them are very similar in that it's like big onion rings that the crust is very like flaky to where they almost flake off. Mm-hmm. Like it's not like the real dense ones. Yeah. Very good. Very good. But Pizza Palace, I never liked. There's a place over there called Philippine Connection that cash only. Very good. Philippine food.
Filipino food?
Yes.
Like lumpia? Oh, it's my jam.
It's right over there. It's cash only. And it's amazing. Like
I'm gonna need like a newbie's guide to
I'll help
snacks
you out.
In Knoxville.
I'll help you out. Yeah, and coffee is weird. There's a coffee shop over there called Perk City that they have very good like sugary lattes and shit. Oh God. She makes this monkey bread stuff that is the shit. Like I've had meetings.
You just got so happy. Like you said the shit with such passion.
I've not had it in over a year. Like because we're in the fucking quarantine, I haven't had it.
Well, it's time.
I'm going to go.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. God, that monkey bread. It's so good. It looks like a volcano with the cream stuff on it. It's so good. To where I've had meetings where I'll be like, we start talking, and they're like, and she always goes, do you want me to warm it up for you, hon? And I was like, yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes. She warms it up. She brings it over, and I just look at the person. I was like, I'm going to need you to shut the fuck up for about 5 minutes. I need to say it's so good. But yeah, she has great, like, sugary lattes. And they're, like, I love that place, Perk City. There's a place over there that they serve chitlins, but they're never open. Like, I've tried to go, like, a bunch of times, and they're never open.
You just got to put a reminder in your phone.
No. Like, you'll go over there at noon on a Tuesday, and they're closed. Even though their hours say they are open at noon on a Tuesday. And then you try to go back Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and they're closed. Like, they're just never... Anytime I've tried, they've never been open.
I've been trying to figure out, so is there, like, a regional cuisine for Knoxville that's, like... Is it just, like, Southern? Is that even...
It's not even really Southern here. Like, it's... So here's... Do you know about the World's Fair?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, I know of it. Do I know all about it? No.
So 1982, we had the World's Fair here, and
that's what the big is the sphere thing.
Sunsphere. You got it.
Look, I'm trying.
Yeah. When they had that, I think every country was represented, and you could just buy like a season pass. And my dad and mom bought a season pass and would go and eat from a different country every day. And I think because of the university, a lot of people not from here, like from Ohio, from California, have all kind of descended here. Plus, we have a pretty good migrant
community.
Community, I won't say congregation, but community here. And all of that's kind of built up. There's a Thai food place out in West Knoxville. That's another good one that it is legit too. I'm not the biggest Thai food
I love Thai food.
fan, but
I love all the world foods. Give me all of them.
Another West Knoxville place, David Chang. I think it was David Chang, the chef.
Yeah.
He came to Knoxville and went to a place in West Knoxville because it's like the best in the area, in the region. Like Chinese, I don't even know what kind of food it is. Chinese, Japanese, something. I would have to look it up. There's a place over there called Sunrise.
Was it one of the shows that he did where he went to like an authentic Chinese?
Yep.
You know, and they had like a special menu where you could actually order
Yep.
authentic Chinese
and right next
food.
to it is a Chinese supermarket called Sunrise Market. That's really cool.
That's good to know, actually.
Yeah.
That was something when I was asking about, like Mexican markets, Asian markets, all that stuff. Because I've seen quite a few little shops so far. Are there any Indian?
There's an Indian food place in West Knoxville called Sitar that people swear, but I'm not an Indian food person.
I will seek that information elsewhere. Then.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I wonder if that place is still open. It's hard in the pandemic because a lot of places have closed.
Yeah.
There was a vegan place on Market Square that everyone was Copita, that everybody was swearing by, but I don't know if it's still.
I just saw the listing for that because that's another thing that I look for. Definitely vegan restaurants.
I don't know if it's still there or not. I think it is. The one that a lot of people will send you to is which is why I got onto this topic, and I swear I'll end it on this.
I mean, you're not scaring me with talking about food.
Okay.
We could go all night talking about
We're about
food.
to hit an hour.
Okay. Okay.
So, Kaizen in the Old City.
Okay, when I was here the week before last, my family had come down and met me. They came down from Detroit, and it's like our center. It's like our meeting point, and we ordered takeout from Kaizen. It was killer.
And he has another place called Taco Taco.
Okay.
I'm going to write down Detroit because I want to come back to that. So the thing that's not super known about this town is outside of here in Walland, Tennessee, is a place. Is it Walland? Called Blackberry Farm.
That's been brought up a couple times.
So Blackberry Farm, like the cheapest room you can get, is like $3,000 a night. Like Kelly Clarkson got married there. Like it's big.
I remember why it was brought up. J.C.
Holway.
Did he come?
So there are 5 chefs. This is why I got Ollie Bay is one of them.
Okay.
Jeff is one of them. There are 5 chefs. They're all Beard Award-winning chefs. I think, I can't remember his name. The guy, J.C. Holway, I think he's the one who got the Michelin star at Blackberry Farm.
That just got brought up last night. And actually, not last year, but the year before I came through here and we ate over there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was fucking killer.
Okay.
I got a steak. There was just so much food at our table.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we went all out. It was
So,
killer.
Jesse, Kaizen, Taco Taco, Blackberry Farm. Amelia, and why am I blanking on it?
Okay, so Kaizen Taco, that's the same chef.
That's Jesse.
And then Ollie B.
Ollie B, that's Jeff. And then, Knox Mason, which is on Gay Street.
And that's high-end Southern.
Kind of.
We looked at that. That was another one of the places that we wanted to get food
And then
from.
Amelia on Market Square, which is authentic, like Southern Italian food.
Italian, that's what it was. Yeah, those were actually, all those names were places that we were looking at eating.
Those 2 are Matt.
Because me and my mom, we don't fuck around with snacks.
Okay.
We're like, tell us where the best food is.
And I cannot believe I've gone this long without mentioning. I swear I'll come for a landing on this, but it's like there are 5 chefs that all came out of Blackberry Farm. All of them, like they went to New York for some Beard Foundation thing, and like I did work for Visit Knoxville, and like there were reports on it. Like it's crazy, but now they've all left and all have their own places. I think maybe the dude out in Maryville Walnut Kitchen is another one. But there's a bunch of them. And they've all started up their own restaurants, which is really cool. Burgers.
Hit me.
Best burger in town in Fountain City. It's called Inskip Grill. He started in the tiniest of tiny diners out in Inskip.
Flat top? What kind of burgers?
Flat top.
I mean, are they cooking them on a flat top,
yes.
or are they? That's my jam.
So that's
old school,
that's
old school
Justin.
Burgers. They wrap them in wax paper. Is there a special sauce?
Oh, do you have your phone on you?
Is the bun greasy?
Do you have your phone on you?
No. Oh, I was trying to be polite.
Okay.
I kept it over on the table in there.
Inskip Grill. He will have a 3-pound burger. He's got a thing called a burger sphere that's meant to look like the sun sphere. He's got an ice cream version of the sphere that's a stack of donuts with ice cream.
That's too much.
No.
How do you even, at some point a burger is it's too much.
You're getting to it.
It's like the three inches or whatever, how big can you really open your mouth?
I got big hands. So
does that mean you got a bigger mouth than everybody too?
No, I just have to work my way around it.
Oh, but no, saying you can hold it. I hold rotating the burger.
No, the funniest thing is I hold it with one hand, and I've had people take pictures of me do this. I go, I can't set it down because I'll never be able to pick it up again.
You got one shot.
So our county mayor, who's a shithead, is Glenn Jacobs, who was Kane in WWF.
What?
Yes.
What?
Did you not know this?
No. What?
He's an asshole. He's been.
I did not know that.
Anti-masker.
I'm learning so much today.
Anti-masker, open up everything, dickhead. And I've met him. He's supposed to be 7 foot tall. He's not 7 foot tall. He's 6'9" because I have a picture with him, me and my dad and him. I'm 6'7". My dad's 6'4". My dad always pulls up that picture and says, I've never felt so goddamn small in my life. He was like, I'm 6'4". What the shit is this? And he's got the biggest hands, Kane. But Justin Inskip Grill always does specials. And he did one, the Kane, that was 3 hot chicken strips, half 3/4 of a pound of beef, cheddar jalapenos, onion rings. There's onion rings again, bacon, all this shit on it. And I was the first person to eat the entire thing. Plus I ate the entire thing of fries. Plus I got a milkshake. And he was like, you're the first one to do that. And then, fuck off.
This is me clapping my...
Fuck off. Fuck off.
I'm so proud.
I'm going to ask you to leave.
I'm so proud of
That's
you.
2. That's 2. You made fun of me on my jacket.
No, no. I had your back on the jacket.
So, I challenged Kane to go in there and eat it.
Oh,
and he did it. He did it.
Way.
But I was out of town when he did it. And I was like, because Justin was like, please tell me you're coming. Because I got to see this. You two, who's going to finish it first? I was like, I'll finish that shit first.
So that's like an open-ended battle between you and Kane.
So Justin, because I went there they had just barely been, I have a knack for finding restaurants before other people find them. I found Jackie's Dream. She had been open less than 2 weeks. Inskip Grill had been open less than a week, I think, maybe 2 weeks when I found him. I think it's Instagram's algorithm is just you like shit, crazy shit.
You like to eat food.
Food, crazy, and he's like, here you go. So had been going there for a year or two, and then he finally, all of a sudden, I saw a buzz on my phone. It was like, Inskip Grill tagged you in a photo. I was like, he must have used one of my photos. I pulled up. I was like, holy shit, he named a fucking sandwich after me. And he had 5 different types of meat. And he's like, I had these 5 left over, and I was trying to figure out what to do. Why not just put them all together and call them the Feral Giant? And I was like,
is it a patty or is it various patties?
No, it's not even patties. It's like,
it's like a turducken of the burger world.
No, it's like Italian sausage, chorizo. It's like
shaped like the sun sphere and wrapped in breading.
With an onion ring.
With an onion ring on top.
But it was just all this different shit. And so my buddy Gary, who's not a small dude, he's a big beefy dude. My buddy Faddis, who is a firefighter, who is he was on the podcast. He's like a 325 pound, 6'4" firefighter dude. Neither one of them could finish it, and I finished it. And the funniest part was, Fattest was going, I have to go pick up my son. I was like, whatever you got to tell yourself, brother. Whatever.
Yeah, okay.
I was
sure,
like,
dude.
I was like, when you leave, I'm ordering a fucking milkshake.
There's another sore loser right there.
But it was so funny. Like, Fattest, he's like, God damn it, I got to go pick up my son. He kept looking at his phone. He's like, damn it. I was like, whatever you guys say, man. And then Gary was just like, fuck this. I can't do this. What's wrong with you? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I also don't eat for 3 days after I eat this. I had a crazy barbecue in Mountain Bluff, Tennessee on Tuesday, and my mom was fussing at me. And she's like, can you not do that and eat that shit and have a heart attack? I was like, Mom, I ate that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I didn't eat again till oatmeal the next morning. I was like, and I didn't even need that oatmeal.
What are those videos? God, my daughter's way into them, where people just like, mukbang videos. That's what I keep imagining. You know what a mukbang is?
No.
I feel like you need to go down like a YouTube hole for that, or it's all over Instagram too. But it's basically just people take huge trays of food and they put a microphone in front of themselves and a camera. And they always put the plate of food real close to the camera so it looks like a mountain. And then they just eat the entire... Well, you could probably make some money.
Okay.
My daughter watches this one lady who just does like seafood boils. And she's like, got a sick-ass huge house now with like an infinity pool. Huh. And she's like eating seafood boil and talking about how all this money is going to buy her new furniture and stuff. I'm like, man, I'm in the wrong fucking line of work.
I have to look into that. I feel like I've been doing that for free way too long.
We probably could have done that with those tacos and made a pretty penny. We could have just put the microphone up there and done, what are the...
ASMR?
ASMR videos of us just eating tacos.
No, because every other bite you were going like, oh God.
Yeah.
Am I going to finish this?
Well, really, I was just saying that because I felt bad because I was beating you, eating the tacos.
They were good.
They were delicious.
What was it? Shit, I had a thought and it's gone now. I'm thinking about food. Have you heard about Ben's Bacon yet?
Okay, somebody was talking about local bacon, and somebody was saying that some people may have to rinse it first. Maybe is this like a local bacon?
It's in Madisonville, Tennessee. It's an hour south of here, but it's Alan Benton, and he's been making this bacon forever, and it became famous in France and New York before people here started eating it.
I want to take that back and say that it was just preference about how much salt on bacon. It wasn't a conversation saying it was bad bacon. It was one person saying it was delicious and one person...
It's very smoky. There's a lot of people who don't like it because it's very smoky. So I actually wrapped... I'm a big Oreo fiend. I wrapped Oreos in Benton's bacon.
And deep fried?
No, I just...
Pan?
Just in the oven. I cooked the bacon and then just wrapped the Oreos in the cooked bacon.
Just you and that.
They did not last more than.
I mean, that actually sounds so weirdly good.
They were and they weren't just regular Oreos. They were like
double stuffed.
No. Gingerbread. It was around the holidays.
Sacrilege.
No, it was, because there's a maple cream Oreo. I was like, I want to do that with the maple cream Oreos because maple. Yeah.
Okay, you got me with that one.
Yeah.
The gingerbread one.
No, they were good. Chocolate and bacon seems like a weird combo to me.
I don't know.
But
you did it.
They were no. I did the gingerbread.
Oh, you did gingerbread and bacon. Yeah. I don't know.
They were so good. But and I'll give a shout out to Kim. Kim made gingerbread ice cream out of those Oreos, or Wade did.
The MMA fighter?
Yep. The ice cream man. I've never heard him referred to as the ice cream man.
Don't fuck with that ice cream man.
So did you grow up in Detroit?
I actually, I grew up in San Diego.
Okay.
My parents divorced when I was, 10 or so. And when I was about 12, about to turn 12, my mom moved us to Metro Detroit to be by her family there. And then my dad moved up into Northern California, and he's still out there. So my dad's in California. I grew up between California.
Which part of Northern California?
He actually built a badass self-sufficient cabin in the El Dorado National Forest up there. Yeah, so he's, what do they say as the crow flies, maybe like 30 miles as the crow flies from Lake Tahoe, but it's actually, you got to drive way the fuck up in there.
Yeah.
But when they split, he lived in Folsom, which is like outside of Sacramento. So that's where I spent my summers through my teen years.
So did you know, I wonder if I can find it over there, Tower Records?
Oh, the...
Because it started in Sacramento.
Yeah, there was a lot of locations of that. No,
but there's a documentary over there called All Things Must Pass that Colin Hanks, Tom Hanks' son, did on Tower Records because same thing, Tom Hanks and his mom split, and Colin Hanks grew up in Sacramento where the first Tower Records was. So he did a great documentary on Tower Records.
Yeah, I had a lot of friends that lived down in Sacramento. I still have friends out in Sacramento, but we were in Folsom, and then my dad kept moving further and further away from civilization and ended up way up at the top of a mountain.
So my friend Gailey and his wife Jenny, her kids, they grew up in San Francisco, and one of her sons has done that, but he moved down to like Arizona. It's like
that was what my dad wanted to do. He wanted to have, like a nice weather house in the mountains, and then he wanted a dugout basically in the desert.
That's hilarious. Okay.
Still time.
So Detroit, so you were there when it was still rough, not... So
it is still rough.
I've got family in Pinckney, Novi, Ypsilanti, which my buddy Draplin calls Ypsitucky, because he's from up there. One of the most well-known graphic designers in the world is from Detroit, or from that area. I
love it up there.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom now, she lives in Algonac, Michigan, which is, it's actually funny, like you have Detroit, and then, but when you go along the coastline, that further up you go, it's all these like old, they kind of look like 1950s resort communities that just kind of time forgot. So there's all these little tiny river towns and stuff, and my mom lives in one of them, and it's like, all antique malls and stuff. But you go further up there, and it's where people used to vacation back in the day, like my mom did when she was a kid. And it's like abandoned kind of little theme parks and stuff. Like,
shit.
It's pretty cool.
Okay.
I love Michigan. I mean, it's one of those places that I feel like you kind of forget is there because you're not going to go to Michigan unless you want to go to Michigan, because there's not no main roads that are leading you there. You kind of have to want to go up there.
When I went, it was so funny. I went over to Canada, to Windsor, which was a shithole.
It's all right.
And then my cell phone...
I got no problems with Canada.
My cell phone did not work, so I was over there for an hour. And I was like...
You were like, I just have to say that I went to Canada.
Because I've never been... That's the only time I've ever been outside of the country.
I've been to Canada a few times, and then Tijuana. And that's about it for me.
Went across, and the border agent, as I was going into Canada, she's looking, she's like, "From Tennessee, huh?" It's like, "Yes, ma'am." She's like, "Do you own a gun?"
Like she just assumed you owned a gun?
I was like, "Oh, wait, did she?" No, maybe she went the other way. She was like, "Is there a gun in this car?" I was like, "No, ma'am." "Do you have a gun on, or do you have a gun?" She kept asking these questions. I was like, "No." She's like, "Do you own a gun?" I was like, "No."
No, she had you figured out.
But I was like, not everybody from Tennessee is a gun owner, man.
She's like, "Are you bootlegging liquor and bringing it over here with shotguns to sell?"
Yes, that's the right. Yes, that
she
I
just asked the wrong questions, right?
I was actually trying to think, did I have moonshine in my car? There's a chance I may have had moonshine in my car. And when I came back, going across the border in Detroit, this little guy, like you see what I drive. I drive that tiny little Yaris, and
actually, when you got out of the car, I was kind of like, "That's funny." That's funny.
So this guy who was almost eye level with me, he was so tiny, and he said, "Tennessee, huh?" I was like, "Not this fucking shit again." He was like, "Do you have a gun?" I was like, "No, what the fuck is going?" And then he just started talking to me, and he was like, he was fascinated by the big guy in a little car, and he's like, "Oh, Tennessee." It's like, my wife and I, we honeymooned in Gatlinburg. And what I wanted to say was, "Oh, I forgot. You have rednecks up here too." Because who the fuck is going to, what are you talking about? Honeymooning? What is wrong? It's like, oh yeah, y'all are rednecks up here too. I got family up here. I know what's up.
Oh yeah, Michigan, that whole area right there.
And then he kept talking to me, and I was like, yeah, man, everybody keeps telling me how rough Detroit is. And he's like, stay within the shadows of the buildings. And I actually looked around, I was like, was that some Jason?
In the shadows?
Stay within the shadows of the buildings. And I looked at him, I was like, was that some Jason Bourne shit? Like, did you just activate me? What the fuck is happening? And he was like, no, do not go outside of downtown. And I was like, oh, okay. I almost went, dude, I'm from the South. Like, it's...
No, but have you spent time in Detroit?
I was fine. So I stayed in a hotel that I then told my cousin where I stayed, and he was like, and you're alive? Like, apparently I stayed in a really rough part.
I mean, I have like a weird perspective because I've lived in all different areas of the Detroit, like from downtown and then out in the suburbs and different parts of Michigan too. So like, I love it there. But I mean, I guess it depends on what you think is scary, you know, because even in some of the heavier neighborhoods I've lived in, you're still dealing with like, it's just low income people and their families trying to get by in one way or another.
Right.
But there's definitely a lot of burned down houses and a lot of arson. And, you know, I've definitely witnessed some house fires that were intentionally set. And
so I grew up on the black side of town. And I grew up normally being the only white person. When I went to Fulton, it was 2/3 black. So I grew up around black people. My family up there, God love them, they don't live in black areas. Yeah. So I think for me, that's what it felt like. That some of it was, oh, you're on the black. I was like, who gives a shit? I was like, I know when I should be scared. There's been 2 places where I've actually been scared. One of them was West Memphis, Arkansas, where I left the hotel and went to my friend's RV park. And I was like, this is not good. Because there were just dudes walking in the middle of the street just staring at me. It's like, this is not good.
It's like that in Detroit, though, too.
Is it? And then Southside Chicago, I was going to a White Sox game, and I drove through part of Southside, which is not good. Like, that's a fucking war zone. And drove through it during the day, and I was like, I need to not come back this way at night. Like, I know when I should feel scared. I never felt scared in Detroit.
It depends on what area you're in. But the crazy thing about Detroit, do you know the history of Detroit? Like, why it is the way that it is? So, I mean, it was supposed to be what Chicago is. It was supposed to be like a metropolis of the North. And then because of all the racial tension and really factory, you know, people of color getting elevated to positions that white people didn't like. And then there were race riots. And I mean, it was really all of that shut that city down. So you have this huge sprawling place with beautiful architecture. Like, it's a big city, and everyone left. They just left after all of that. And so it was abandoned and rotting forever. And then because of the factories, the people pushed more and more out into the suburbs, all the white working class. So you have these weird divisions of like the downtown. Now it's getting a little better. I mean, people are getting hip to that you can buy property there. But like, you have whole, you know, it'd be like if Knoxville was just abandoned with a few buildings here and there, a few neighborhoods that made it.
So I've spent a lot of time in Cleveland, Ohio, and it's on a smaller level, very similar. Like, my friend was looking, she lives up there, and her boyfriend were looking for a house. Because the apartment they were in, they had to leave it. They moved into like her dad's or grandmother's house or something. And literally within 3 days, God, I keep saying literally. I've turned into
so much.
Chris Traeger from Parks and Rec. Literally. There was a drive-by that the bullets went through right where she would have been sitting, like 2 or 3 days after she left. And so she said her and her boyfriend were looking for a house, and she keeps saying, she's like, you need to move up here. She's like, these women up here would eat you, would love you to death. I was about to say eat you up, but you just big Southern guy. Oh my God, you'd clean up here. I was like, I'm not going to move to fucking Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And I was like, what about this house? And she was like, no. And then same thing. It was like, see the house next door to it? And I pulled it up. I was like, oh, somebody burned that house down. She's like, oh, and here's one that's a cracked in. I was like, oh, shit.
But I mean, now it's starting to get, of course, like, I don't even know if that counts as gentrification because
it's weird. Like 10 years ago, I know a lot of artists started moving up there.
Yeah, and it was all over the news. There were people that, you know, and it's always been there. There have always been these little pockets of, you know, I remember hanging out at various anarchist collectives down there in downtown that were doing urban gardening before it was like a popular thing to do. But I think once people realized you could buy these old estates up there, a lot of people started moving up there. And so, again, I don't know if you consider that gentrification because they're not really kicking anybody out.
It's almost like carpet bagging.
Yeah, but the houses up there are fucking rad. Yeah. The architecture, I love it, but it is a little hairy. A couple years ago, I had 4 or 5 of my friends flew up with me for my birthday, and I wanted to take them to Detroit and show them around. And when we got up there, my birthday's actually was earlier in March, but we got there and it had snowed. And so there was snow on the ground, and they were like, this isn't that bad, So I was driving them through all these neighborhoods and showing them all these abandoned buildings. And by the time we left, a couple days later, the snow had melted, and they were like, should we be here? Like everything looks so different. It's like it wasn't a winter wonderland anymore.
That's hilarious.
But I love that. I love that it still has, there's something like authentic about it still.
I'm trying to think, like I'm trying to get to every baseball stadium in the country. And I did a jag where I went on a trip. I went to Michigan, Detroit, and Chicago.
Tiger Stadium.
And here, and back home. Like I just did like this big loop. And went to the game at Tiger Stadium. But I was there for like 2 or 3 days. I was visiting family. I stayed with them like half the time I was up there. Then there were a couple.
You have family in Detroit?
No, in Novi.
That's right. That's right.
Pinckney. My uncle taught at Novi High School. And but I went and stayed with them. I stayed with them half the time I was up there. I needed to leave for whatever reason. And that's when I went and stayed in the sketchy ass hotel. The hotel that when I went to check in, there was a lady from Indiana or somewhere. This is still the funniest fucking thing. This was not in a good part of town. And so she's standing there, and her and her husband had checked in. They went to their room. They opened the door, and there were people already in the room.
Doing nefarious things. Yeah.
So then she goes back and she's trying to clear this up, and it turned out like their computer went down, and the person before them did not they have a box where they can write everything. They're supposed to write back everything down and write it. They didn't do that. So she's trying to deal with her, and she keeps looking at me. I was like, I'm good. Like I already have a reservation, so I should be fine. I hope. And some dude walks in with a tall boy, and he's just, oh, no. Sorry. Shh. There's another lady there too, but the first lady leaves, and she could not be a more skittish, scared white woman. Like it was older, like almost like Heavens to Betsy, like clutching her pearls. Like what do you call that? Like a stereotype. Mm-hmm. She goes out. They go to their next room, and she comes back in. She's like, "There's a dude in that one too." And then coming in after her was an older dude with a tall boy. And he walked in, and he was like, And he set the tall boy down, and he was doing this.
He was just looking for a place to rest his head.
So, no, he was already in the room.
Oh.
Yeah, he was in the room. And when she opened the door, and so she came back in, she was like, there was a man in there. And he came in there, and he was like, yeah. And I said, come on in, honey. I was like, Jesus, what the fuck hotel am I in? So I was like, I
feel like it could have been a lot worse for you, though.
Oh, yeah. So what I figured out late, so then, like, by the time I had been standing in that lobby for like an hour and 15 minutes, by the time I finally got up to the counter. And she gave me a key. I was like, she's like, do you want on the first floor is a fucking motel? First floor or second floor? I was like, let me have that second floor. I was like, and she said, yeah, I'm noticing that when I check people in on this side of the motel, there's people already in those rooms. So let me put you further away. I was like, sounds good. And then, so I got up in that motel room up on the second floor, and I started getting ready for bed. But as I went to that room, there were just dudes milling about in the parking lot, drinking beer and just being loud. And then I was in my room. I was getting ready for bed because it was getting late. And I kept hearing people pass by the door. And I just walked over and I put a chair under the door. I've done that a couple times where I've been in places where I'm like, I don't know about
just
this.
Just a little hairy.
Yeah, but it's also, I'm a big dude, and if somebody would have walked in that door, I would have gotten up and pushed them over the fucking like I don't do well in those situations. Like
I think I have a little bit of naiveness sometimes about stuff, like where maybe I should have a little bit of fear about stuff, but I've lived in so many different neighborhoods that a lot of stuff doesn't bother me. Like most of the time it's just people living their best life, you know?
That doesn't bother me. Somebody walking in, I don't. Yeah. I can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Especially like little old ladies.
Yeah. Anybody. Yeah. Like I can't. Well, but I stayed in a motel in Memphis that was literally a hooker hotel. I got propositioned in the parking lot. That's one of the other places I put a chair under the door. I was like, I don't need her to tell her pimp that I did something and him try to kick in this door. So I put that chair. I was like, I'm not going to. Because they had a permanent room 2 doors down.
Yeah.
That there was a party the night before. She was like, do you want a party, honey? I was like, no, ma'am. I'm good. And I was like, I don't feel too comfortable. But as long as I wedge that door to where I can hear something before somebody actually breaks in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think of Detroit as it being, I don't know. Sometimes I get sensitive about it because I feel like there's a lot of like hidden racism in those thoughts about stuff, you know, and really it's just poverty. What we're talking about is like poverty. So
I didn't mention that at all. Everyone at that motel, white. And what I figured out later is they were building like a McDonald's or something, and it was all construction dudes. There were some Mexican dudes there, but it was mostly older, kind of rough looking white dudes. You were
staying in the Novi area?
No. This was in Detroit. Yeah. I could probably figure out where it was, but it was not a good hotel. It was.
I mean, there's not that many great ones down there,
and it was outside of the city.
Maybe there are now. The casino by the casino areas.
But that was the one that my cousin was like, I can't believe you survived staying there. I was like, I was fine. I was like, but I also knew enough to where my hackles were up to where I was like, this is not great.
I can't remember when I brought my friends up there. We stayed in a big, maybe it was like a Hilton or something. Like we went all out when we were there.
This was like a hojo.
Yeah.
And it was a motel.
Yeah,
Again, it was a motel.
I probably wouldn't have made that decision.
Yeah. I always just look for the cheapest motel. My former boss, I drove up to Jersey, but I stayed in like DC for a day and visited one of the museums. George Lucas and Steven Spielberg are the biggest private collection owners of Norman Rockwell.
Really?
And they lent out all of their Rockwells to one of the museums in D.C. And I went up. So I love Rockwell. So I went up to see it, stayed. But my former boss was from D.C. and she's like, stay out in Annapolis. It'll be a lot safer. Or it'll just be better. So I found the cheapest. It was a hooker hotel.
In D.C.?
Yeah. And I was like, in Annapolis. And I was just like, I don't know that I feel comfortable laying on these sheets. This room is fucking disgusting. So I literally slept for like 4 hours. I was like, fuck it.
On top of the blankets?
No, never on top of the blankets. I got under because at least those were clean. I don't trust the comforter part. But I stayed in. So that one I made fun of her. I was like, you had me stay at a damn hooker hotel, man. What the hell? Like they were literally roaming the parking lot. I was like, what the fuck? And then I stayed at one in Baltimore. Whatever it was, I stayed in like a Days Inn at each of the 3 locations, and it got funnier. Like Annapolis was the most expensive. Baltimore was very nice and in the middle of the city. And that guy who was working the counter, when I got the reservation, I was like, okay, where do I park? He's like, well, there's a parking garage next door, and it's $20 a night. And I was like, what the fuck? That wasn't on the site. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
And I almost went, hold up, buddy. I know you're from Baltimore and you think you're tough. I'll pull you over that goddamn, like I was so pissed. And he kept doing that. And I was like, man, you are lucky I'm only here for one night, dude. I will go to jail. Like, but here's the best part. Then I go to a Days Inn in Jersey. And it was the cheapest one, and it had a fucking Hooters attached to it. I was like,
you were like, oh, right.
This is hilarious. I was like,
hot wings. Sick.
Shitty beer and hot wings.
Yes, and somebody's grandma or stepmom and
yeah. Ugh. It was funny, but it was Like, it was funny that the Days Inn kept getting cheaper, but the final one I stayed in was a massive room with a fridge and all this shit. And I was like, hell, the other ones cost me 3 times as much and didn't have this.
Yeah, all the different hotel names now, you can't really judge. I just have to go by customer ratings and all that shit now. Because, like, the names of the hotels really don't mean anything anymore to me. I wish they did. If you're cheap, if you're staying cheap, but...
And it's weird in that, like, I stayed in one in Charleston, South Carolina, has been refurbished, and they had put pergo wood flooring down. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then I was on the first floor, and there was a second floor. I was like, no, it's not. It's loud as shit. That's why they have carpet. Like, I was up all night because...
Those carpets, man, they always have those weird 80s fucking patterns on them. And you know that's because people are pissing on them. Babies probably took a shit over there. Yeah, there's... Who knows what kind of bodily fluids are stuck in those rugs.
All right. So here we go. We are an hour 30-ish in. So you're switching between... Northern California and Detroit area.
Well, it's Southern California to Detroit.
Oh, yeah, San Diego, sorry.
And then my summers and summers.
So what did your folks do? Like,
my dad is a carpenter, had worked his way up from being a carpenter to being a construction foreman, and slowly climbed his way up. And he... built a house in Shingle Springs, which is up in the foothills outside of Sacramento, and it was a badass house. And him and my stepmom built that together, and they bought a piece of property that was covered in manzanita that nobody wanted.
What is that?
It's a super dense wood that's super hard to get out. Like, it's a brush kind of low sitting, and it's super hard and roots in, and so it was... They bought it on a slope. Nobody wanted. Built this bitchin' house, and with that, then when they sold that, they were able to buy the property up in the mountains. So my dad actually kind of came up from nothing as a carpenter, and now is living his best life up in the mountains. You know.
Nice. And your mom?
My mom is kind of a Jane of all trades, like me. Right now, for the last 10 years, she's been doing hand props for television and movies.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, she works, so she lives in Algonac, Michigan. She does most of her work on all of it over the internet, but she works for some pretty big, like, big time stuff out in New York and does everything through the mail. And she kind of, when I was younger, she worked in advertising. She owned a screen printing shop in San Diego, catering. She was like the best party planner. She flipped hotels in the Metro Detroit area, which when you were talking about hotels and people at the front counter, I was thinking about my mom, actually. And then she got into selling things on eBay and ended up getting in contact with a prop master somehow and was smart about it and is now working for big movies and big TV shows.
That's crazy.
Yeah, she's wild. She's ambitious. And
so growing up, did they encourage you to kind of, I hate to say not have a trade, but use your hands? Because carpentry, and then sounds like your mom.
Yeah, so I'm definitely influenced by both of them, but I'm a high school dropout. And I mean, when we moved to Detroit, it was extreme culture shock for me, obviously. Like, I went from being a beach kid to Metro Detroit in, middle school. I was like, I got picked on pretty bad.
I got a pack of shank.
Oh, it was pretty bad. I rolled in and I was like a little punk rock, 12-year-old, and they were like, what the fuck is this? It was pretty bad.
Like, it's not who, it's what.
Yeah, what the fuck is this? So I ended up dropping out of school, my sophomore year. And so both of my parents, wanted me to go to school, and my dad was always encouraging me to find whatever made me happy and to pursue college with the idea of that it opens more and more doors, not to go into it thinking about go get a degree, but to take the opportunity to take classes. And I'm not sure what my mom wanted me to be at that time, but I ended up traveling around, and I was a chef I ended up leaving being a chef and doing a bunch of stuff and ended up doing upholstery, because ultimately what I wanted to do was to work with my hands.
Okay.
and to build something. And that influence definitely comes from my dad. And my grandfather was also a master carver on my mom's side too. So I kind of grew up around people that were always making things and doing things.
What led you to be a chef?
I mean, really, I started off as a dishwasher in a banquet hall. You know, it's
there
like,
you go.
What can I do to make money?
Right.
So my first job was in a soda fountain and ice cream shop, actually.
Holy shit! Yeah.
And then it was Taco Bell, and then it was washing dishes in a banquet hall, and
fellow Taco Bell employee.
Man, you know, it's like if you're going to work in fast food.
I hated the food and lost 120 pounds in my first year working at Taco Bell.
Really? I'm pretty sure I probably gained like 20 pounds. That was in high school.
I went from 6'6", 330 when I graduated to 6'7.5", 210 in a year.
Well, I was vegan at the time too, and it was like, this was before it was like popular to order all that stuff. We're like figuring out how to make all the food with no meat in it. And you could do that there, you know?
You're like, I don't think this nacho cheese has any meat in it.
Well,
I don't think
really
it has
touched.
anything real in it.
It was just like bags of things you put in this boiling water vat. So there was no like cross-contaminating there. It was relatively clean.
I've told people, I was like, I swear to God, the beans look like dog food.
Yeah.
They look like dog food.
And the big boxes of like oil that you just kind of...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was weird when I worked there. They went from having like real chicken and real steak to whatever that shitty, like
it's probably a soy byproduct mixed
like,
with
because when I first started working there, I would make little bowls of chicken or steak with nacho cheese and we had bacon, and I would make those. I was like, no, these are great. And then they stopped having that, and the chicken was really rubbery and shit. And I was like, oh no, I can't eat this. So I would survive on next door. There's a Krispy Kreme, and I would eat a blueberry donut and a chocolate donut and a French vanilla cappuccino.
Also. Real fancy.
Real fancy.
Look at you.
Yeah, I'm fancy. Status Dough are the best donuts in town, but you got to go the
Noted.
You got to go the one out west. Don't go to downtown. Sorry, Karen and Jimmy. The one downtown, they make them out west and bring them downtown. It's like, it's not the same, and they don't have the same variety. They have a coffee old-fashioned one that is ridiculous, and they have a vanilla bean donut that
you can get them while they're hot? Are they open that early? Are they still
Oh,
hot?
they make them all day.
Okay.
So they are always taste fresh.
So it's like a legit donut shop then?
Yes.
All right.
And they have big giant crullers and apple fritters.
That's my jam.
So anyway, okay. So you work in restaurant and you keep making your way up to where it's like, okay, chef seems like something I want to do.
When I dropped out of high school, though, I ended up, hitchhiking around the country for a couple years. And when I finally landed, I landed a bunch of places, but I landed in Louisiana.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, what can I do as a high school dropout? You know, it's like, you can work in the kitchen.
I feel like you fit right in. I feel like Louisiana is almost like an island of misfit toys.
It is. You know, most people end up in New Orleans, but I definitely didn't. Lafayette is a far cry from New Orleans.
I think that's where my buddy Cody lives. I think he's in Lafayette. Born and raised. He's a comic book artist.
What's his name?
Cody Chamberlain.
Oh. Yeah, he's in Lafayette. Is that?
I think so.
I think he's like a very popular.
Oh, is he?
I don't know him, but
he's
that
some
name,
jackass that I know. No, he literally is.
You'll have to pull that up because I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, kind of sandy blonde hair, goatee. I think he's still rocking a goatee. Sorry, Cody.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
he's a graphic designer and so this is always a weird thing. In 2003, I joined a message board online for I'm a big comic book nerd, and it was for this writer Steve Niles and this artist Ben Temple Smith were on there, and I became friends with these people all over the world. Like I've got friends in Australia, I got friends from Iceland. Do you know the band Sigur Rós? They're an Icelandic band. They're pretty big. But like my friend went to high school with those guys, and now he lives in Denmark or something. And I do a weekly radio show, and I got to interview him, and that's the first time I ever talked to him or saw him. And we were flipping out. It's like we've known each other since 2003, but Cody was in that group, and that's how I got to meet him.
I'm stuck on that. Like, I feel like maybe I follow him on Instagram or something.
I'm going to find him real quick and see. But yeah, okay. So you end up in New Orleans.
No, I ended up in Lafayette, actually.
Sorry.
And to be honest, my first job, the only job I could get was working in medical billing. So I did bill collection and medical billing for a couple years.
Although that seems to be the first job that I heard people doing from home. To where, like, a friend of mine's wife did that, and he was like, it's kind of great because she just sits there and does it from home.
Yeah,
Doesn't have to pay daycare because they had kids, and said, it's kind of fucking awesome.
I was awful at the bill collection side of it because you could tell me any story, and I'd be like, okay, I'll just put a delay on this. We're just going to hide this in this folder over there. But data entry and organizing things... Oh, my brain is made for that. So you could give me 1 million out of order medical bills and I will have them filed properly, quickly.
Come on, Cody. He doesn't put where he's from. It doesn't look like he tags any of his damn photos. You dickhead. Come on, Cody.
I'm telling you, he's in Lafayette. I'm pretty sure he's in Lafayette, or was at one point.
What is your Instagram handle? I'm going to... this is going to...
Define. See if we're... Which House Streams? I know that name has been brought up.
You follow him.
See, I knew it.
Cody Chamberlain.
I don't know if I know him,
Yeah.
though.
So he spoke at a design conference I went to, and I messaged... Because I'd never met him either. And I messaged him, and I was like, wait... Are you at this conference? He was like, yeah. And so we met up and hung out. Like, it was so crazy.
Wait a minute. Man, I wonder... We did this weird project at the woodworking shop I worked at that was a piece of visual art for downtown. And maybe he had a hand in that.
Probably so.
I'm going to have to connect the dots somehow.
Okay. So anyway.
He's going to listen to this and be like, yeah, we met at that party 5 years ago. You don't remember the conversation we had, Chrysi?
He's like,
well, sorry,
bro.
But yeah, climbed my way up through cooking, and then it became a challenge for myself to see how far I could take it. And I ended up climbing up through managing various restaurants, and then I took a...
Did you stay vegan or vegetarian?
I've always flip-flopped
okay.
And still at home, like I don't keep meat in my house. It's very seldomly there'll be meat in my house. So like I mainly cook vegan or vegetarian, but like if I eat out, I mean, I've also participated in a shit ton of hog roasts, and they're called boucheries, like where we butcher hogs. And
I will say one good thing about around here, you can find a ton of local farms where you can get properly raised local beef.
I mean, basically nowadays, and there's guilt in it for me for sure, because I obviously the meat industry is fucked, and I know that. But every once in a while, if I want a steak, I'll eat a steak, But, I've been raising my daughter to understand, like, how to eat healthy. It's actually a huge foundation of my family life is eating well.
So whenever you want to do that, in the old city, there's a place called Hen and Hawk.
Oh, yeah. I've eaten there quite a few times already.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
and they have their pork belly is what's over at Oli B, right? They provide some of the stuff over there.
Same guy.
Yeah.
Jeffrey,
oh, it is.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
So the chef over there is
the guy who started Hen Hawk.
Yeah, man, they're
so
killer.
Hen Hawk is only a year or two old. Like, it's not that long.
So my best friend here, her name's Cindy Lou Douglas, and she owns Chop Shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like my homegirl. And she introduced me. She actually brought me down there one of the last times I was here to go down there when I think they just opened, because she's introduced me to John Phillips, too, who had done the cleavers on the doors.
Remember how I said the bowling balls?
Yeah. Oh,
those are for John.
Yeah. I had dinner with him and his family. They're wonderful, actually.
Oh, yeah. His son,
Sebastian?
Bash. Yeah. Took my graphic design class twice. I taught graphic design.
Yeah, I wanted, actually, the last time I saw them, I wanted my daughter to meet his son, because they're, my daughter's a couple years younger, but it was like when I met his son, I was like, oh my God.
So,
it's just like my daughter.
I don't know if Cindy Lou will remember me. Like, we have...
She doesn't, because I was like, I'm going to do this podcast, and she was like, who is Jody?
We've met a couple times, but...
That's like my best homegirl.
I know. I totally understand. I
sister.
totally understand. There's like a 1.5 foot difference between the two of them.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
used to seeing like right here in my midsection.
Yeah, so she's never really seen you, straight on. Yeah, that's who I stay with. She's actually, I feel incredibly fortunate. And I met her from her coming down to one of the boucheries that my friends were hosting.
Okay.
And there were a lot of musicians that would come in. And so she came down for one of those and we instantly hit it off.
Okay.
I think that was maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. And so we've been visiting each other back and forth. And I feel real fortunate because she has introduced me to some really awesome people in this town. And kind of like, she's the one that introduced me to Wes and Jess. And, you know, so she's kind of made it really easy for me.
I'm trying to think. I think I'm going to have to ask Sean if that's where he gets... I think that's where he gets his haircut. I don't know if he gets it from her. But my buddy Pointner, he was like, man, I think I'm going to try to bring the rat tail back. I keep trying, but the woman who cuts my hair looks at me and goes, no. She's like, she will not do it for me.
I feel like they would support that at Cindy's shop. I feel like if you went
I think
into
it
shop and
Sean.
were like, I would like a rat tail, they'd probably hook it up.
So that's Sean's logo I did for him. He's like, I want a cock. And I was like, I can do that.
Wah, wah, wah.
So I try. God, this is super dirty. But my dad, like I said, goes off mic, goes to all these like I call them CARM. They're thrift stores, but there's a charity here called Knoxville Rescue Ministries, and they have these
the CARM thrift stores. Yeah.
So he found one, and it was a pancake batter thing. It was just it's like
a fucking word, not a pitcher. Jesus.
But it looked like a mini pitcher
thingy.
Yeah, it looked like a mini pitcher, and it said batter on it. I was like, oh, that's a pancake batter, but it had a picture of a rooster on there. I went, cock batter. I have to get this for Sean. And it was gone when Dad went back. I was like, son of a bitch, I want that so bad.
He was waiting for the deal. He was waiting for it to go to half price.
I did not tell him that's why. I was like, well, no, Sean's really into like roosters and his branding. That's why I wanted to get it. And I didn't have the heart to go, no, because it would be cock batter. For his birthday last week. Yeah. So what I ended up getting him, Sean's from Kentucky. You probably, him and his wife have a shop on Central called the Central Collective. She makes fried pies. He's a photographer.
The Central Collective.
It's near, do you know where Hops and Hollers, Marie's Tavern? It's across the street from Marie's.
Is it Central? What's that?
It's right before that.
Okay.
If you're going towards the old city, it's before that on the right. Magpies is on the left.
Okay.
It's kind of back and across the street from Magpies. But he's from Kentucky, from Cave City, Kentucky. And have you ever heard the story of the cocaine bear?
No.
There was this big drug thing in where they would dump drugs in Kentucky, kind of like the dude in Arkansas that they made a movie of Tom Cruise. They dumped cocaine, and a bear got into it and did a bunch of cocaine. So
then did what?
There's a book, and there's going to be a movie about this. That they had to like put him down because he had taken like
just fucking raging neighborhoods.
Yes. Oh my God. But because of that,
oh my God.
No, here's where it gets better. There's a website that all they sell is Cocaine Bear merch. So like sweatshirts and shit. And so I found they had a snow globe with the cocaine bear, and it's a bear with 3 things. But then when you do it, it's not snowflakes, it's cocaine. And I bought that for Sean, and he was like,
this is cocaine and little dollar bills rolled up, floating around in there.
Sean looks at it, and he was like, I can't tell you how much this means to me. I was like, yes. So I know he would appreciate the cock batter thing.
What are they going to call that movie? And is this like a live action?
Yeah. Elizabeth Banks is going to direct it. I've got the book. It's called The Bluegrass Conspiracy. I've got it in there. I got it for Christmas. Yeah, Cocaine Bear. Oh, you got to see the merch.
Okay, so the bear isn't the main character. It's about these...
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be
that
about...
That just fucked me up real good.
Yeah.
I was like, how are they going to do this?
No, it's not going to be like... Yogi and Boo Boo. It's not going to be Yogi Bear, but cocaine. Although I would pay...
Express type thing, the Cocaine Bear.
I would pay to see Yogi Bear, but Cocaine Bear. Like an animated bear.
It's probably been done.
That would be awesome.
Get a hold of Cody Chamberlain.
Yeah.
My buddy.
Your buddy and mine. That's hilarious.
Our buddy.
So what's funny, that I call that a Knoxville thing. Cody. That with Cody. because that happens all the time here.
Like knowing
Yes.
somebody.
I went on that same trip where I went to Detroit and Chicago. I went and hung out at a cigar shop. And the funniest is I went to see the Tigers play. There's this major brawl. They played the Yankees to where they almost got, there wasn't a brawl. There were like 6 brawls. And it got to the point where they almost didn't have enough players to continue the game. And where they kept ejecting players. And so after that, I went to a cigar shop that had a bar attached to it, that it was predominantly a black bar. So I go in, I buy my cigar, and the 2 young women, it was one of those, you walk in, cigars are over here, the bar part's over here. I walk in the cigar shop, and the 2 women are kind of looking at me funny. And I was like, hey. It's like, I'm going to go. They're like, okay. They're texting. I was like, what the fuck's happening? I buy my cigars. They're like, how are you doing today? I was like, doing fine, ma'am. They're like, okay. And so I check out, and I was like, I go over there. Yeah. So I go in, and I walk, and I'm walking up to the bar. And the woman behind the bar goes, what are you doing here? I was like, what are we talking about? And I got a little closer. She was like, oh, shit. Sorry, I thought you were my boyfriend. And I was like, he sounds like a handsome man. To where it hit a point, I went up and I got a drink and a beer, and I went and sat down, and I sat next to this elderly black man who was smoking a cigar who had fallen asleep. He's in there asleep with this cigar, and I was just like, I'm going to keep an eye on that. If that starts to fall, I'm going to get his cigar for him. But I also don't want to just reach and grab his hand. And there's a TV in front of us, so I'm sitting there smoking, and then at one point he goes, and he wakes up and he goes, hell of a game, wasn't it? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I was there. He's like, oh, shit, me too. So we just started bullshitting about the game and how crazy it was. And then I went back up to the bar, and the lady was like, every time you walk up here, it freaks me out.
Yeah, gets her.
And she was like, can I take a picture of you and send it to my boyfriend? She's like, sure. And so it turns out he was a little shorter than me. And she was like, you're just a little bit bigger than him. And I think I made a joke. It was like, and better looking, right? Like that. And she's like, oh, shut up. Like, it was so funny. But I have this card. I get bothered about how tall I am.
Oh, you made a card.
I'm a graphic designer. I've given out 400 of these in 6 years. That's how often I get asked about my height. I'm not kidding. So I told her, she was like, but you're a little taller than him. I was like, here, give him this. And I gave her, and she was like, oh my God, this is like, oh my God, this is so great. And I wrote down like my email address. It's like, if he wants me to make him cards, tell me, and I'll make him some cards.
So when people come up to you and they're like, how tall, you just put your hand up and say, just hold on a second.
It happened on Tuesday in a Dairy Queen. When I left interviewing Leslie, I had to see a man about a horse very badly. Mm-hmm. I was like, there's nothing public, so I'm going to go in this Dairy Queen, and maybe I'll get an Oreo blast while I'm here. That's the one thing. Don't eat any fast food, but I'll still get milkshakes.
I was going to say, you're cheating on the ice cream man out in West Knoxville.
Oh, yeah. I was in Johnson City. That's
it for you.
Yeah, I was an hour and a half. Oh, no, I don't want to anger. I don't want to anger him. I was an hour and a half away. Also, he would have understood.
I like how you're
I'm justifying it.
Checking off the boxes.
But as I walk out, some old redneck dude, he's like, because I had to duck to walk through part of it. It was so short. And he was just like, excuse me, before you leave, how tall are you? You like 6'11"? I was like, hold on. I hand him a card. He's like, oh my God. Because that's always the reaction. They're like, this is the greatest thing ever. And I just walk away. It has no contact information, no nothing. It's just the card.
Just an easy out.
Yep. I've given it to famous people. Do you know David Sedaris, the author? I met him.
Absolutely.
And I gave him a card. And I was like, I think there's been a few people I've given it to. I was like, I think you're either going to find this hilarious or you're going to call me an asshole. Some celebrities. And I handed it to him, and he talked to me for 20 minutes about the microaggressions again. I was like, I'm becoming a David Sedaris story. He's like, this is the most brilliant thing. And he put it in his envelope. Mark Kozolek, the singer, the musician, Red House Painters. I was at a show of his in Asheville, and the stage was in an old, shit. I got to remember to look up that venue. You need to go to a show there.
It's in Asheville?
It was like in an old, what do you call it? Not Teamsters, but Masons. It was in an old Mason
like
line.
A Masonic temple?
It's fucking awesome. But the stage was level, And there was a point, Asheville's very hipstery, beer, everybody looks like me, dresses like me. I fit in. So I go to see a man about a horse. That's a common thread apparently on this podcast. As much as I say, almost as much as I say literally.
Literally.
And I come back in, and he is just railing on some dude in the front row, kind of jokingly. And I lean over to the guy. I was like, "What's he doing?" He was like, "Oh, he's giving that dude shit for wearing plaid and having a beard." And I was like, "Huh? Think I should walk up there right now?" And that guy went, "Yes, you should." So I walked up, and Mark's like, "God damn it, what is it with you Asheville people and your goddamn check?" And oh my God, dude, do you want to work security for me? And so I handed him a card. He did a spoken word piece the next night in Philadelphia on my card. Like he kept going back to it during the show. He was like, "I can't get over the brilliance of this card." I was like, "It's a fucking card." Like it's dumb. It's dumb. It says
no. It's a whole thing.
I put yes. I played football, basketball, giraffe in school plays. And that's the part that gets everybody. He's like, "Did you really play a giraffe?" It's like, no, it's in comedy. It's the rule of thirds. You always do two normal things and then try to come up with some.
one weird off.
Yes. Yeah. And, but I have given out, and it just happened 2 days ago. I had to reload because I was out of them.
Did you just buy, how many of them do you still have? Do you have boxes of them?
No, so the first time I bought them, I bought 250, and I went through those. That's how I know I've given away about 400, and I'm about halfway through another box of 250. So that's, I'm right at about 400. I'm more than halfway. I need to reorder. I need to just order 500 next time.
Yeah. Are you going to change up the card at all? You're going to just keep it? It's a classic?
It's classic. And there's an illustration on the back that my buddy Daniel drew and left on my keyboard.
Do I get one?
Yeah, if you want one, yeah.
How tall are you? I'm just kidding.
Oh. You jackass. That's 3. You're out.
You were about to tell me. You weren't even going to give me the card. I was about to get the whole spiel. God. Okay, this is good.
God, now I got to stretch. Good Lord. Okay. Okay, so you end up in Lafayette.
In a roundabout way, yes.
So you said the highest you got to was like managing restaurant. Were these like high-end restaurants? Were these chain restaurants?
So I started off low and worked my way up. Line cook, little hippie restaurants.
Okay.
But then I ended up getting a job working in Yosemite National Park, and I went out there. And I worked under a chef out there for a season, and I climbed my way up from doing buffet to various parts, and then ended up catering weddings, and really that was an awesome experience for me out there. And after that, my plan at that point was to go, all my stuff was stored up in Michigan. It was to go back up there, get my stuff, and then go to New Orleans. But I ended up passing through Lafayette, which I had lived in for a couple years, left, whatever. And I ended up staying there. I fell in love and ended up
that's how it always is.
Going to Lafayette. But the goal was to end up in fine dining and to see if I could make it into fine dining. And I did that when I went to Lafayette. And I don't like to say that I was a chef because I'm not formally trained at all.
Okay.
I was just someone that worked hard and kind of climbed up the ranks and ended up at the top of the food chain in a really good restaurant.
Hell, maybe that's a stupid question. Can you do that nowadays? Or can
Climb?
You? Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I feel like, and even like doing upholstery or any job that I've had, I'm a high school dropout. I got my GED, well, technically it's called the high set, the one that I took a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you show up, people are looking for people that are willing to work. Because you can be a formally trained chef and be a total piece of shit and not have any work ethic. Like, an education doesn't mean you're going to be a good employee. So.
Oh, I went to community college. And that was a big sticking point for a lot of people around here, is because if you went to the university, you got a leg up when it came to agencies and all this stuff. Whereas, like, I worked at, like, a print shop for a company. And there's a lot of people who's like, you don't really understand because you haven't worked at an agency. And I'm like, oh, you can go fuck yourself. Yeah. I was like, and there have been times where I've said, let's get 2 computers, set them side by side. I guarantee you my work will be better than yours because I've had to work for this.
I mean, I definitely have worked next to other people, other cooks who are, because of their formal training, can maybe do more gastro,
right,
that kind of shit. However, because I've climbed up from dishwasher all the way through the different areas of kitchen management, like, there's more to being a chef than just cooking. You have to also be able to run a crew and to be able to communicate well and stay organized. And it's a lot of pressure. So, I mean, I think you can do it.
Now that I think about it, so Bourdain's show, there was an episode where him and Eric Repair, I don't know how to say his last name. It was one of Eric's restaurants, or was it one of Bourdain's? It was one of the two. And the guy that was the head chef had been like, he had worked his way up. Yeah. He was a Mexican dude.
Yeah.
That had worked his way up. And now I think about it, it's like, I don't think he was like a formal chef. He just worked his way up.
Some of the best people I've worked next to on a line, stuck in the fucking weeds, are people that have climbed up like that.
Yeah.
Because they actually appreciate being there. Like, they appreciate the amount of money that you make, which really is not that much money.
Yeah.
Like a lot of that stuff, versus I've also worked with people who come from a formal education that are just snobby,
right,
don't know how to work with a team, and especially in fine dining, everything has to be coming in perfectly. It's a lot of money people are spending on that. So each hand has to be coming in at the same time. And if you can't communicate through that and like have that good energy, then I don't care where the fuck you were taught how to cook, so.
That's one thing I've never mastered, is being able to get like everything to come out at the same time.
It's a weird micromanaging, like once you get into the zone with that, you're not even thinking in numbers anymore. It's just kind of, it becomes like second nature. I love cooking in kitchens. The only reason a main reason I switched careers was because I had my daughter. And then as soon as my daughter was born, my priorities shifted, and cooking is exhausting. Yeah. And you're married to it. And I was really fortunate that the places that I worked at, and I think because I'm a good employee, were very flexible with me with my schedule and worked with it. But at the end of the day, I was tired, and I wanted to be spending more time with my daughter. And for me, that always would end up looking like self-employment of some kind. But also having something that was process-oriented and was engaging my brain and all these things. So it kind of shifted gears.
Did you go straight from being a chef to upholstery?
No, I didn't. I actually, when my daughter was born, I took a break from cooking and we downsized, and I wanted to stay home with her for as long as possible. So I did so many odd jobs, and one of them was graphic design for my mom for doing props. So for a while, a couple of years actually, I was making, in a movie you see a beer can with a fake label, like any hand prop with a fake label, or like something that someone would touch. I was designing that stuff, making really good money. But that's another industry where if they call you at 4 a.m. and they need something overnighted to New York, like, you better get the fuck up and get it to them. So it was kind of like, man, it was good money, but it was, I don't know how my mom does it. She doesn't really sleep like a normal human. She cat naps, so she's like 2 hours on, 2 off. I never met another human that sleeps like that.
My uncle did that.
Oh, man. It's the wildest thing.
It was insane because I would get an email from him at like 3:50 in the morning. And then I would ask my cousin, I was like, why the fuck did I get him? And he was like, oh yeah, he sleeps for like 30 minutes to an hour and a half. And then he'll get up, he'll go outside and smoke a cigarette.
It's like a totally different reality.
And that's what he does all day. And he worked for himself as some kind of weird, I still don't know what the fuck he did. He was some kind of weird contractor, but he was like contractor, like, I remember he passed away, unfortunately. But I remember one of the last gigs he had, he was running the books for a construction company because they all had time cards. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because it would be like Eduardo Smith, Juan Davis. Like, it was every single one. I was like, what's up with that? And he was like, Less you know, the better.
Under the
like
table
it was
shit.
so funny. Well, it was all illegal.
Yeah.
Illegal. It was so funny. And he was like, this is going to sound wildly inappropriate in 2021. He's like, they're the greatest workers in the world. He was like, I don't know why like he was flabbergasted.
They
He's like,
appreciate the money.
yeah, he was like, why the fuck does anybody have a problem with this? He was like, they worked their fucking ass. Like he was going off, and this is like 2006. Like he was pissed that he was like, why would anybody be angry at this shit? Why are we deporting people? They work harder than most of us do. Like he was like, what the fuck are you? He was so angry about it. But then one point, like 2000, 2001, 2002, he was some kind of like he was working in Germany teaching a company how to work more efficiently for 3 years.
It's like, so you don't sleep. That was his suggestion. He was like, let me tell you how I sleep.
So no, the funniest thing was, God, that's a awful way to start this, but he had to travel after 9/11. And so I had to fly like a year later, and he's like, here's what you do. And I still do this till this day. He's like, if you take a bag with you, before you're in the security line, take everything out of your bags, out of your pockets, and put them in, if you're carrying a backpack, into the little pocket. He's like, carry your wallet, your ticket to get on the plane, and your cell phone, and you don't need anything else. Everything else can go in your damn bag. And he's like, that's how you do that. I still do that shit to this day.
What, just to get through security quicker?
Yep. I was like, when I go through security, I wear shoes that I can slip on easy on and off. I carry my wallet. The minute I get out of my car, I throw my car keys in the bag. Like I always carry a bag with me. And sometimes I've taken flights where all I've carried were a book. I've checked everything and just carried a book or two, cell phone, wallet, and my boarding pass, and that's it. I don't want anything else. I want to be as lightweight as humanly possible when I get on that plane. Earbuds.
Smart man.
It came from him. But like he was talking about what it was like traveling overseas after 9/11 and what a fucking mess it was. But he was the same way. When he worked in Germany, he was like, was it jet lag? He's like, jet lag doesn't affect me. He's like, I don't sleep regular any damn way.
That's how my mom is, but that's also why she's so good at what she does, you know, because she doesn't, she's like, yeah, I can get you that. You need it in 2 hours? Sure, not a problem. Yeah. But it was a bit much for me. I did love it, though. It was cool to turn on TV shows and be like, oh, I made that.
That's awesome.
But, you know, that lasted for a couple years. And then I bartended for a while. I worked at a couple music venues. I painted things for people. I sold crocheted bags. I mean, I was all over the place because I just wanted to spend as much time as possible staying home with my daughter. And as she got older, she got into daycare. I went back to cooking for a couple years. And I was doing really well with it. But, like, ultimately I realized that was at the time in Lafayette when things were starting to be a little bit more, I don't want to say, like, not like hipster with food. That's not really the inappropriate way to say that. But there were, like, people teaming up to do dinners and stuff like that. Right. And it was awesome. And I loved that. But I realized in that I really am kind of a glorified home cook. Like, I love food and I love cooking for people. But at that level, it kind of, your face, you don't see your customers anymore. And I, grew up working in little hippie restaurants and stuff where, like, you could see people eating. And that really, for me, was, like, the satisfying part, is feeding people versus being in a white coat with a hat and you're behind doors and nobody sees you. Or it's, like, competitive cooking, or, at that level, it was like, why am I cooking, And is this what I want to be doing? Is this, like, really my passion anymore? And it really wasn't. Now I cook all the time at home. And I love cooking again. And I realized, too, that had kind of gone away, that, like, cooking at home,
Well, you had mentioned steaks earlier. My buddy Gailey and I had gotten this conversation one night about steaks. And I was like, I never order steaks in restaurants anymore because I know how to cook it how I like it. And he said the same thing. He was like, because he's 55, and he's like, I've worked a long time to figure out how to make a steak exactly how I like it. Like doing the rub down, doing the marinade, doing whatever he wanted to do. He was like, I don't know that. He's like, because I'm paying $65, $75 for a steak that's not cooked exactly how I want it.
I'll still sometimes, depending on the restaurant and the cut of meat, I'll still order a steak. A steak is actually a very, like a good, aged ribeye for me. I'll still order.
Okay,
I'll still go there.
So you like ribeye?
Oh yeah.
Yield Steakhouse.
Okay.
Out in South Knoxville. It's a ways out there. Was it Man vs. Food? Adam Richmond?
Yep.
He went out there and they cook their ribeye some special way that has an au jus, and it's just crazy.
I will absolutely still just order a chunk of meat from somewhere because, I can definitely cook a steak on my own, but there is something to me about eating a big ass piece of meat that's well prepared.
Yeah.
It depends on the restaurant and obviously who's cooking it, but
I'm into it. You just reminded me of, I've already made this list for when my friend from Colorado was in. I was like, oh yeah, because biscuits and gravy, I always joke and say, do you want to go to the hipster place, which is Ollie Bay, which is great, or do you want to go where the biscuits and gravy are my favorite in town, which is Holly's Gourmet Market, which Holly and Peggy, oh my God, those two are Knoxville treasures. Peggy is the one who started and ran Magpies for 20 years, and she just sold it in the last couple of years to her niece. And then Holly is her sister, who is a classically trained chef who has a place out in West Knoxville called Gourmet Market. And she makes these crazy sandwiches like Reubens and shit.
Oh, that's my jam.
Reuben? But her biscuits and gravy, I always get with an extra side of sausage and chop up the sausage. It's super peppery.
Yep. It's the way to do it.
And was it something head biscuit? Nerd head biscuit is fucking legit.
Is that
it's just
a
special.
Joint?
Yeah, it's just some kind of specialty biscuit she makes.
Huh.
But yeah, she's those biscuits and gravy. I'm trying to get her to change to put an item on there, the Jody or something, that it's the biscuits and gravy with a side of sausage, because it's.
You know what? We did get the biscuits at Ollie B. Is that it?
Oh, that chicken biscuit is stupid.
We didn't get the chicken biscuits, but we got them a couple times with breakfast, and they were fucking killer.
Oh yeah,
they fall apart.
That big ass chicken biscuit he has is it's tremendous. It's tremendous.
I'm sold on their breakfast. That shit was killer. I'm not even joking. I think I had that 5 days in a row the last time I was here.
Okay.
My mom was like, "This shit is so fucking good."
Yeah.
And so expensive, but it was so good.
Yeah. I think they serve Ben's bacon there. I think if you get bacon there, it's Ben's.
We just had the pork belly,
Mm.
which was fire.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, so you get back into cooking, and then what made you shift from there? Well,
I actually decided I was going to go to school is what it was. I was like, you know what? I got my GED and I was going to go to school and I was going to pursue woodworking. That's initially
what I was going to say. You mentioned working at a woodworking shop.
So I had, I wanted to go to school for building furniture was initially what I wanted to do. And I've always, since I was a kid, pulled furniture out of the trash. I've always loved furniture. And I've always, all through growing up, had furniture and be like, someday I'm going to refinish this or whatever.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, all the community colleges in our area they'd canceled all the woodworking programs. So there was nothing around there. And so I kind of went down this rabbit hole and I ended up where I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go be a draftsman so I can learn how to get the stuff out of my head onto paper. And then maybe I'll do architectural studies. I don't know. And around that time, I actually met someone who had just started their journey in upholstery as well. And she was like, you should learn upholstery too. And so we started doing that together and we did a few projects together. And around that time, we had these massive floods where I live. And it was horrible.
Right.
And I noticed an acquaintance on social media actually owned a restoration studio, a woodworking shop and restoration studio, and he was posting all of these antiques that they had brought in. And I knew he didn't have a big group of people working for him. And I was like, hold up. I wonder if I could get a job over there. And I just on a whim went over there and I was like, man, if I could, get an apprenticeship, then fuck going to school. I'll go in the way I've always gone in, and just work my way, work my ass off. And I went over there and And he was like, yeah, I won't give you an apprenticeship. I'll just pay you. And so I worked in the restoration studio with him through all of those flooded antiques, which was like trial by fire, because it's all huge armoires, like 8, 9, 10-foot armoires, French antiques, like, and they had all been water damaged, you know, anywhere from a couple inches to a few feet up them. So, you know, they were not just pulled apart at the joints, but discolored. And so I think I worked with Noah for 3 years. And he was, Noah's now a really good friend of mine, and our businesses, we've worked back and forth passing furniture because he does restoration and I'll do the upholstery, and we, you know, piggyback off each other, which has been awesome. But he taught me, I mean, he was so open with sharing knowledge about antique restoration with me, and that I feel like that's kind of a rare thing.
How long ago was this?
I mean, I've only been this is my 5th year doing upholstery. So I stopped working with Noah about 2 years ago because he started funneling me all the upholstery stuff that was coming through the shop. And so I just put my head down and self-taught myself how to do all, you know, YouTube University. I was like, well, can I do this? And so over the last 5 years, you know, I had him worked for him learning color work, lacquer work, finish work, you know, all repair, all of that, and then self-taught basically for all of the upholstery stuff.
So that was one question I don't think I asked Jess and Wes was, are there styles of upholsterers? Like, can you just be someone who restores? Can you be someone who builds from the ground up? Or is it kind of more you have to be able to do everything?
I mean, so Jess and Wes, their shop is what's considered a modern upholstery shop. So basically there's 2 types of upholstery. There's traditional antique upholstery, which uses hog's hair, horse hair, sometimes hay, straw, and the paddings on them are made out of whatever materials they had available at the time, and that's all over the place. Everything's spring-tied. There's multiple layers of hand-stitched in, like it is a whole thing.
Okay.
If you ever get a chance to watch some videos on how they build up antique pads, like, it's pretty gnarly.
Okay.
Their shop is a modern shop, which is mainly foam-based.
Yeah.
So they prefer to keep it that way, and I don't blame them because traditional stuff it's a lot. So because I worked with antiques so much and deconstructing them and stuff, I've definitely done both types of them. The spring tie, rebuilding the pads, it's a lot of work. And I think over in Europe, it's mainly traditional. You know, I think they frown upon the way we use oil-based products in America for sure. A lot of the antique stuffings are more reusable, but it's to wash that stuff and reuse it, it's a lot. But yeah, you can, and there are people who only work on one style of furniture too. Like there may be people who specialize in mid-century modern, and that's what they prefer to do. But I think that once you know all the skills, you can you could do anything with it.
Okay.
Now, restoration is a completely different world. Like that's the wood side of it, the construction of the frames themselves. It's definitely a different beast than the upholstery part of it.
Whenever you move here, figure out time to go see Gailey's shop. He's all the way on Greenback. Like it's a 45-minute
restoration?
drive. No, I need to check in with him, see how his dad's doing. He was on a previous episode talking about woodworking.
He's a furniture builder?
Yes.
Okay. I meant to listen to that one. I haven't had a chance to get to it yet.
But when I worked for, do you know Pet Safe? Invisible Fence, the dog collars.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
So I worked for Pet Safe for 5 years. He was an electrical engineer there. But his dad, I think his mom was like a frame builder, frame maker, which is, you talk about a nightmare thing to do. Like the precision in math you have to have, it's nuts. And
true, like really good furniture building.
Frame.
Frames like painting frames. Oh yeah, that's a whole thing too. Minor corner, yeah.
And but then his dad made furniture. I was trying to say armoires because And his dad was in like his 80s and still building that shit. And there was one that was up on the table that I was like, the intricate detail was ridiculous. And he said, "Oh yeah, I'll come out here. My dad's 80 and he's up on that table working on this. A table that's 3 or 4 feet off the ground." Yeah. He was like, "Don't do that." But he used to live in South Knoxville, and his wood shop was in the basement, and it killed his wife because all the sawdust would come up through the boards. And he said to load the wood in, it was like one of those old houses that just had the small, like, was that 1.5 by 8-inch windows, and he would have to load the boards in through there. But he said, so they bought a house, or they either bought or built this house out in Greenback, and he built, I think they bought it, like 2.5 car garage, and he turned it into his wood shop, and it's just a play zone. Like it is just the most, like, made their own tables. Like, God love the guys at Able Trade, and hopefully they won't listen to this. That's great. You all went and spent a lot of money on a lot of great equipment. David and his dad built a lot of this shit, which I think that's amazing. Like, I love that. He's like, "No, we needed a table that could do this, so we just, this is what we do." So we built it.
Yeah, rig something
like
up and make
it's
it
so
happen.
great. Like, he, at one point when he finally retired, he was like, yeah, because he's an engineer. He's like, "I'm trying to figure out something I can build that would be small enough that I can put up on Etsy, that I can ship, and it's not going to kill me on shipping, and I can just make a little, that I can sit and make 20 of them." So he came up with these cool little footstools. And he's like, "Yeah, and I built 3 different jigs so I can just cut out all the legs at the same time," because engineer's brain and a craftsman's hands. Like, he's great. But it's funny because I was out there and he's like, "Yeah." I think he talked about this on the podcast. He's like, "Yeah, I got like 3 different sanders. Because you know what? Changing out sandpaper, pain in the ass. So you know what I did? They don't cost that much money. I just have 3 sanders with 3 different levels of grit." He was like, "Because what the hell else He's like, "What am I going to do?" He bought a Sprinter van and fixed it out for him and his wife to travel in. And he built all the stuff. He was even cut into the sidewall. And he said right before he did it, Jenny, his wife, was like, "We just paid a lot of money for this van." He ended up working like 3 extra years to pay for that van.
I think a lot of craftspeople are like that. They're kind of just, you find what you can make money off of, but they're always, even inside of their business. That's how my buddy Noah is, that I learned under. Like, we had a big CNC machine in there, and there was restoration always going on, or custom tables, or like some little toy company needs toys or whatever. You're like, "Yeah, can we do that? We can do that," trying to figure out like what's actually. All of it's so labor intensive, though, man.
I'll show you this lap. I'll get up. I'll have to have you speak while I do this, but I'll show you this lap tray that my buddy Sean built for me.
The one you were talking about.
But that's the thing with Gailey. He was talking about like one of his sanders that it was just his oldest one. He had it forever, and it was just on the fritz. And I think it was one of those times, like, if you had gotten one before X amount of time, it would work forever.
Yeah.
But then if you bought it like right here, it's going to break down a lot quicker. And he had bought one right in here. And he was like, "I really have to fight it to get to work." And then I realized, just get a new one. You're fighting against something that would just make it so much easier. Okay, so you work under him and apprentice under him.
Yeah, and
I think that's what's missing is apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is totally missing.
I mean, like I said, I didn't really. The other option was to spend a lot of money and get an education that I may or may not use for what I wanted to do. And actually, I'm glad that I pursued it that way too, because how does that?
Here is why.
Oh, it's just to sit in your lap.
No, so I could draw while I was watching TV.
It's like a tabletop drafting board.
Yeah. Now, I stained it. That's why it's kind of a shitty stain job.
Yeah, I can see that from here. It just looks like garbage. Look at the finish on that thing. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, Sean and I constantly barter shit. It's like, "Hey man, I need you to take photos for this thing my dad's doing." He's like, "Cool." I was like, "All right, I'm gonna bring you some cigars." He's like, "Sounds good."
Sounds good. Works for me.
I'm about to redo a website for an artist and a writer. This couple that produce books.
What is that
This is their first book they did. That he is like this horror artist.
Oh, I love it already. That looks like something my little girl would look at.
That they just did. But I'm going to redo the website because I was fussing at them that their SEO was terrible. And
no, my daughter would get a kick out of that.
I think they've still got some of these.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Let me look at that before I go.
I'll pull their other book. It's over here. But I was doing there, and God love them. Again, the Knoxville way. She's like, all right, can we at least pay you X amount? And it was not cheap. And I was like, no, I don't. Because I hope I'm not telling. No, she posted on LinkedIn, so I can say this. She was looking for a job. Because she worked at Book Edie forever, and then they shut down. And so they're trying to make this work, but they've got kids. They need to make money. And
yep.
So she posted something about needing a job, and she's a writer. And I was like, okay, what do you specialize in? And have you thought of, like, because it's me, I'm thinking of my connections. Like, have you thought about PR? Have you thought about, working for the labs out in Oak Ridge? You got to think about these alternative things.
Yep.
It's like, because newspapers are dying. And I was like, and you can't there's no real alts. There's one alt around here, and it's 2 guys, and that's it. I was like, so think about like PR, because PR marketing, like writing press releases and shit, you can make a living.
Yeah, you just have to be creative with your skill set. I think a lot of times people get stuck in this idea that like they have to continue to have this same kind of job, but really, I mean, and obviously being a chef and a woodworker and this don't seem like they're the same, or doing upholstery, but it's all about process. It's about micromanaging little things and looking at things in detail, and all those skills cross over.
Oh, yeah.
If you got to get a new job or get a job, you got to be creative and open it up.
But yeah, and that's why I say I'm not just a designer. I like doing all those other things because I just get bored. If I just did one thing, I'd be bored to shit. But I was talking to her, and they were offering me money, which I could use. I could totally use money. But I was like, you're looking for a job, and you're wanting to pay me. I don't feel comfortable with that. I was like, you know what? Would Adam, her husband, would he be open to just doing a commission for me, just doing a drawing? She was like, yes, we can totally pay you. I was like, I would rather you just pay that way. Yeah. Like, that's what I do with a lot of my friends. I was like, I'd rather just let me do something. Let's just trade what we know how to do. So I'm a big Swamp Thing fan. I was like, I can't wait to see what he does with Swamp Thing. I was like, I would love to have a custom Swamp Thing painting from Adam. I would shit a kidney. Like, that would be worth me reading.
Has he made it for you yet?
No. We literally just talked about this earlier today. But she was like, oh, no, I talked to him, and he was like, oh, yeah, I'll totally just trade. I was like, yeah, because all I'm going to take is time and knowledge to redo your website and make it SEO compliant and all that crap. So why don't you take time and your skills, and we're just trading skills.
Yep.
I'd rather do that than you giving me money and then me turn around and buying your books when they come out. Like, we're just trading money at that point. I'd rather have something interesting that I can point out and say, how cool is that shit? Like, that's fucking awesome.
It's nice to be able to do that when you have the opportunity to do that with people.
But but you're talking about like apprenticeship and mentorship. I don't think we have enough of that. And I think I see way too much when somebody's looking for a job. They're always like, you need to have at least 3 to 5 years experience. It's like, but that's every job. So how are they going to get that 3 to 5 years experience?
You know what, though? My friend Cindy was looking at some applications today, and she was like, none of these applications are speaking to me. And I definitely know that I've been an underdog with things because I've gone in and said, I will work hard for you. Yeah. And, like what I don't have in skills, I can give you in commitment. And, I will do this job how you tell me to do it to the best of my ability. Yeah. And, that's how you get an apprenticeship, though. You have to kind of come in at it and be like, hey, like, I really want to do this. Yeah. So even that, also, people have to make money. Like, I had to take a hit for a while on making money, and luckily had a partner at the time and low overhead to where it was okay until I built that up, Right. But, I mean, not everybody has the opportunity to do that. Yeah.
So you're working with Noah.
Noah.
Yeah. So did he have more people, or was it kind of just the
It
two
was
of you?
actually
'Cause
him and my buddy Ryan, who, oddly enough, Noah and Ryan were an odd pair to begin with, but Ryan's like my best buddy now, and he's a fellow metalhead punk rock dude. And I walked in the shop, and he was like, "This is Ryan," and I was like, "What's up?" you know. And we just like instantly were like, "Oh, you listen to this band? Sick," you know. So it was like we were listening to black metal and doing woodwork, and it was pretty awesome. And so it was Noah. He comes from design and engineering, and he's like the creative mastermind and running the CNC machines. And me and Ryan did a lot of the restoration. And I think the part where I shined was in color. I loved taking, especially those like flooded out pieces. You know, an antique has hundreds of years of color that's come from the sun and different, you know, contaminants really that have gone into it. And when you strip it, a lot of places will strip a piece of furniture and just stain it one color, and it kind of becomes flat at that point. So like when you refinish things, sometimes you lose a lot of the texture of what people loved about the piece in the first place. And so I got really good at taking a piece of furniture, stripping it all the way, and then using different colors and techniques to kind of make it look like it was still really old, you know? So I got really good at that. And various, like, I don't know, all kinds of faux finishes and stuff like that, you know?
When you're doing the finishes and that, with some of the antique stuff, do you have to use kind of a specialty varnish or something, or is it kind of more universal?
We used just a lot of lacquer, but it actually depends on the product that we were doing too. And man, it is a temperamental beast because contaminants in the wood, you never know what's in there.
Right.
It causes reactions in the different chemicals, you know, so we weren't doing like French polishing techniques or anything that we were spraying lacquer, coats of lacquer on. But like newer builds, you put different types of finishes on that are like tougher finishes on it. It really just depends on the piece. We worked with all kinds of stuff.
So that varnish I bought was a gel varnish, and it fucking sucked to try and apply. Like I just went out on my front deck.
What did you use to apply it?
Paintbrush. Is that did I screw up on that?
No, it just depends on. I mean, was the wood sanded?
Yeah.
Well before.
Yeah.
What happened? It just textured.
No, it's just that gel. Like it was almost like jelly. That it just when I applied
too thick and so you have to do really thin coats and you build things up like depending or your application. You know, sometimes you don't. It just depends.
It turned out looking like black paint, and I was like, I don't like that. I want it to actually look like wood.
Finish is a finicky bitch. And I'm not going to lie, trying to do lacquer work in South Louisiana was a fucking nightmare.
I think that was the other thing. I think I did it in like late spring.
Humidity. Man.
It's also, I'm bending over doing this and trying not to get sweat on the damn thing.
Oh, yeah. Or like if a little wind blows and there's, it was, it's a lot. It ultimately with furniture work, I kind of realized that like also stripping stuff, the chemicals involved in that. I mean, we would get these big vats in that, you know, very clearly say on there, if you are a woman and you are pregnant, this will probably kill your baby. Wow. You know, like a little bit lighter words than that, you know.
Marketing lingo.
Oh, totally. You know, skull and crossbones everywhere. It's like the dip from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, you know.
You must use industrial.
They have like the fucking boot they're dropping in there. It's like.
If you don't use industrial grade gloves, you will lose all your fingernails.
Oh man, I had a pump one time that was filled with stripper blow up in my face, and I don't know how. It was like water soluble, you know. So I somehow managed screaming to make it over to the sink with my eyes closed and get it off of me before it like fucked me up too bad. But man, talk about the fear of God, like. Yeah. Whew, that was gnarly. So yeah, at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? Restoration is great, but upholstery's a lot safer.
Oh my God. Okay, so you work. Is that where Did you move on to somewhere else after that, or are you still?
I started working for myself. So I had done a few projects with someone that basically showed me like how to handle a staple gun and a few things. But really, like, I'm also a nerd for books and just knowledge in general. So some projects started coming through the shop where we were refinishing pieces that had been flooded that were upholstered as well. And Noah was like, "Do you want to do these?" And I was like, okay. And so I started taking on the projects through the shop. And he works with interior designers in Lafayette. And he ended up, you know, like I said, he was very like open with the business and everything with me. And he'd started to introduce me to designers. And I just got to the point where after a couple of years, I was getting asked more and more, like my work was good. And so I ended up getting my own studio space and doing, you know, I started just doing it part-time in my studio and kind of weaning off of restoration work. And then eventually the last couple years, I've been like flooded with stuff. So that's what I do exclusively now.
Do you have your own shop? Like
it's just a private studio.
Okay.
I have there's a collective studio. I mean, they're private studios, but it's a big warehouse space that's divided called the Alamo that my friends Holly and William own. And I have a private studio in there.
Okay.
And so I just work out of there. I got my own little shop set up in there.
There's a place in South Knoxville called Knox Makers to where they have, it's almost like a more communal version of Able Trade where they have all this equipment. You can go in there and do welding and shit. Like, it's kind of nuts. Able Trade may be a good place for you. I think it is not that expensive, too.
I'd have, you know, as far as what I do with upholstery is definitely has to be relatively clean. And so Noah at one point had said something about, you know, setting up a space there. And I was like, I don't know if that would actually be able to.
Yeah, the woodworking equipment.
The sawdust and all that. Now, if there was an additional space that was a clean room or something, then maybe. But I definitely, when I listened to that podcast on Able Trade, that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, there's going to be something like that.
But another thing I think of is that place is so big and all the woodworking stuff is in one side to where literally I think if you went all the way on the end on the other side, there's probably very little to no.
I'd be curious to explore that for sure.
It's so fucking big.
Man, I honestly, and John Phillips had said too, and I didn't know this, that they call Knoxville the Maker's City.
Yeah.
Which, he kind of said the same thing. He was like, "Did you know that they call this the Maker's City?" You know, and I was like, "No, I didn't know that." But he was like, "Yeah, it's kind of like a selling point for the city." But being an outsider who's like kind of randomly finding that out, you know, I'm excited to know that there are a lot of craft people here and makers because I want to meet them all. And collaborate
the
and make
Scruffy
shit.
City, the Marble City, we've got a lot of names.
The Scruffy City.
Scruffy City.
It's like a beardo thing.
No, it's actually before that. It's Nashville is always turn their nose up to where there was somebody I was talking to that was talking about. They're like, "Oh, I know Tennessee, Nashville." I was like, "You're lucky you're talking to me." Because there's a lot of Knoxvillians that if you said, "I know Tennessee, I know Nashville," they'd punch you in the fucking face. Because we are not Nashville. Like, I always say, Tennessee is California turned on its side. Because San Diego is different from L.A. that is different from all that shit in the middle. The Bakersfield, all that weird shit in the middle. And then you get up to, like, Redding is super conservative. San Francisco, you know... I'm telling somebody who already knows this. Like, it's so different.
Yep.
And it's like Tennessee, Memphis is different than Nashville, is different from Knoxville, is different from like Bristol and Tri-Cities, is different from Chattanooga. And then you have all that shit in the middle.
That's how Louisiana is too.
Is it really?
Actually, part of the reason in this plan to move here is not something I've taken lightly, and I've been trying to figure out where I would land because Lafayette was never supposed to be the final destination. It's just kind of where I wanted to raise my daughter while she was young. But Knoxville kind of reminds me of Lafayette just on a city scale. Like Lafayette has a university there, but it's really a town.
So that's the weird thing is growing up, because I'm born and raised. I've lived within 5 miles my entire life. Tennessee used to be a college town, and somewhere around 10 years ago, it slowly started shedding that skin.
Knoxville?
Yeah, and I love that. I love that it has morphed and changed, and it is more than just a college town.
You know what I like about it here that reminds me of Lafayette is Lafayette still has its own culture, like the Cajun culture there, Acadian culture, and Knoxville seems like it still has old time music and that a little bit more of that connection to like heritage, which makes it feel more like homey to me. Versus Nashville or Memphis or Chattanooga, which I actually stopped in on my way here and was like, man, this doesn't seem like the Chattanooga I knew when I was younger. It's very like whitewashed and you can hardly see the river for the lofts, like so
same thing with
Louisiana's like that.
It's same thing with Asheville. When I first started going to Asheville in the early to mid 2000s, like you could walk down the street on a Sunday morning and nobody was out there but the homeless people. Mm-hmm. And now it's like every time you're there, it's just absolutely packed. Like it's insane. And they're trying to make Asheville a tech city. Like being in design, I went over there to AIGA Asheville, an event, and they're talking about like apps and stuff. And they've got these big high-rise co-working spaces.
Yeah.
Like, this is not... Asheville was kind of like an artist...
It was cute, yeah.
Artist
it was
retreat.
Like a cool spot. I used to know a lot of people who lived...
And breweries weren't a thing.
Yeah.
15 years ago, breweries were not a thing there. Like, and then all of a sudden it's turned into this weird thing. I'm like, man, it's not the same anymore. Whereas I think here it's been this. We're always slower.
It's still got some soul here.
Oh,
I love it. There's a ton of soul.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was kind of looking for. And also cost of living is a huge thing too, because I love working. I love what I do for a living, but I'm not willing to sacrifice my life to work just to live in a city because the cost of living is so extremely high in so many places now. And I know that I've heard a couple other people, especially like on that Able Trade when they were talking about cost of living here and how it's bringing people here. And trust me, I know that I'm coming in hot on somebody else's town, but it does have that. It has a good feel for like raising kids here. It's close to the mountains. You're accessible to a lot of bigger cities within a couple hours, which I love to travel. So that's huge for me.
So there was a freight. My buddy Chad and I talk about this all the time, that there was a period where it was always Knoxville. You're 8 hours from everywhere. Because literally you drive to D.C., Cleveland,
actually
Chicago.
8 hours gets you some rad places.
Yeah, Chicago. Like it's nuts.
I think Detroit's 9. Yeah, Philly's like what, 10?
It depends.
That's nothing to me. Like I'll make that drive, no problem.
That time I drove to Detroit, it took, because of construction and shit, I think it took me almost 14 hours.
Yeah, that's outrageous.
And my knee was fucked up.
This is actually the halfway point from my family and my daughter's dad's family in Louisiana. Like this is, for me, it's a 10.5-hour drive from Lafayette to here, and then my mom, I want to say it's 9.5, I think is what it is. If you drive it straight. I always meander, so it takes me a bit longer.
So I've never spent time in Texas or Louisiana. And before all this shit started happening, I have a buddy that lives in Austin that I love to couch crash because I don't have a lot of money. So it's always like trying to find the cheapest, most efficient ways to go places. My buddy Rich, who's actually the guy who gave me the idea about doing the card.
Okay, Rich. Thanks,
Rich is the best. Rich Monholland. My buddy Brent, I walk with him every Friday. And since the pandemic, we walk every Friday. I walk in the street. He walks on the sidewalk over in 4th and Gill. And him and his wife just went on a road trip where they his mom, and their little baby kind of stayed safe. But they had to get out of here, and I think they drove up to Colorado, but they drove through Austin, and I got a picture one night of Rich and Brent together, and he was like, look, it's the Jody Collins fan club. And I was like, you two are the only two members of that club.
Dude, I love Austin. Austin's a great place, but it's very saturated.
I told Rich, I was like, I want to come, but again, the shorts thing, I can't come in the summer. I'll die. Like I just can't do it. I was like, but man, once it comes fall or something, I think maybe even this year. But what I want to do again, baseball. Like there's 3 there in Texas.
Through Texas, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'd like to do those, but when I come back, I'd love to come through I'd like to see New Orleans.
Yeah, you have to see New Orleans.
But even more is I want to also come up through Montgomery and Birmingham, Alabama.
That's what I take usually.
And see, because the Negro League Museum.
Yeah, the Civil Rights Museum.
Yep.
There's also the, what is it? The Monument for Peace and Justice.
Yeah.
Which is
Oh.
brutal.
So
I cried.
So
many white tears. I felt so, oh God.
So I joke that not only am I a man, I'm also a Southern man and a Collins man. So any like lots of crying, you just stuff that down till it becomes cancer somewhere down in here.
Yeah.
But I went to, so when I was in college, I read, they're still up there, every religious text you could read. And when I got done reading that, I read Mein Kampf. And I read, because I was like, I want to figure out why the fuck this asshole did this. Like,
did you ever read The Spear of Destiny?
No.
Oh, you talk about some weird.
But I read, but it was funny because I went to Barnes and Noble and I bought Mein Kampf.
Did you finish Mein Kampf?
Yeah.
That's ambitious.
I also read the entire Satanic Bible, which cracked me up.
Well,
I just called it the Satanic Bible, the guide to being an asshole.
That's pretty much what it is.
It is. But I went up to Barnes and Noble and I was like, I can't just buy Mein Kampf. So I went and bought every single MLK book and I read every single word that man wrote and I put them both up. And the person was like, okay, picked up the MLK and was like, okay, what the fuck is going on? Like, what?
Yeah, I went to Atlanta and went to
Ebenezer.
Yep. And went and saw MLK's house, went and did all that stuff. Last year, I did a lot of traveling by myself and with my daughter last year just to get out of the house. And a lot of it was like a lot of different museums and stuff, trying to touch base with myself again about
I've also heard that if you go to the Holocaust, my former boss is Jewish. And she was like, I don't know that you ever need to go to the Holocaust Museum in D.C. She was like, I think you would have a lot of problems. And she was like, I don't know that you could make it through. I was like, I would probably Hulk out at some point. Like, I would probably, because I went to Lorraine Motel.
Yeah.
And I made it all the way through it and got to the end. And have you ever been to Lorraine?
Mm-mm.
The last thing you see before you leave, and go across the street and see where James Earl Ray's, you can see his vantage point where he's shot. Like, that's fucked up. That's just, it's hard to think of that you're standing in the place where James Earl Ray stood and shot him.
But you know what? We should be facing that stuff.
So,
I make a point of doing that stuff because it's painful doesn't mean we need to hide it, you know?
I went during the week in the winter and nobody was there. Like, there was some other, 5 people in there. So I get to the last thing you see before you leave, spoiler alert, is his room with everything untouched. There's even like a sandwich or something. They just closed it off and it's untouched from when he left that room. And I fell to my knees and started crying harder than I ever have in my life. And it did not stop for like 5 straight minutes. And there was a point where I finally got up and as I was leaving, I was like, man, nobody came around. And I was like, or somebody turned that corner and said, what the fuck? And like some big giant dude, just whale tears, just like going nuts. Like, nope, honey, we're going to go the other way. We're not going to. That's a terrifying sight. Like, it's one of the hardest.
It's powerful.
It's so bad. Like, it's so, yeah. That's why I told my former boss knew that. So that's why she was saying about the Holocaust Museum. She was like, I don't know that you can make it through it. She was like, I think it will bother.
Dude, I'm all about that, though. I've been going so deep into history with travel, man, like, and trying to, because it just. Oh,
I was going to say, I've got one for you and your daughter. It's kind of a weird thing in that, like, you have to drive, because I did a thing when I turned 40. I did 40 before 40. So I made a list of 40 things I wanted to do before I turned 40. Mm-hmm. And one of them was to drive to the Paperclip Museum. So have you heard of this?
No. But I've had conversations with people about the invention of the paperclip.
Nope,
like,
this is not it. There's a documentary too. And it's sitting right there.
But can we just say brilliant?
Yeah.
That and the bobby pin. God damn.
Whitwell, Tennessee, which is like 30 minutes outside Chattanooga. But you drive, if you're leaving here, you go to Crossville and you drive down a back highway to get to Whitwell, Tennessee.
So it's east of Chattanooga?
West.
West of Chattanooga. Okay.
There's a middle school teacher that needed to explain to her kids what about the Holocaust. So another backstory is...
Okay. This is going a completely different
direction.
I
have an insane knowledge on World War II and Vietnam. Like I just read everything I could read to where I know shit. That it also fucks me up to... I just learned this past Christmas that Vietnam is one of the biggest tourist destinations. And so I'm sitting there with my uncles. One of my uncles was given a handgun and a flashlight and told to go in tunnels and kill whatever he found. And so we're pulling up shit online, and he was like, that's the tunnel I went through. And it's like, they have had 40 million visitors this year. I was like, and like 40 years ago, he was having to kill VC and literally not knowing if he was going to die because he had, 16 bullets and a flashlight, and that's all. That's the only light. Like, and now people are going to it as a tourist destination. Like that fucked me up for a couple of days. Like that's weird to me. But paper clips. So they did a documentary on this, and this middle school teacher said, we're going to collect a paper clip for everyone who died in the Holocaust. And so they started writing letters. I'm like, whether you like them or do not like them, but like Clinton and W sent boxes. Tom Hanks sent boxes. Steven Spielberg. Everybody sent to where they had more than the amount. And then somebody in Germany or someone overseas who owned a train car that took people to the concentration camps gifted them a train car. So it's a train car that went to Auschwitz or Dachau, one of those. And so you're sitting there watching this documentary, and it gets towards the end, and there's this beautiful Alison Krauss song called Jubilee. It's a historic song, but she sings it. It's Alison Krauss, damn angel. So it's showing all these kind of glory shots of this train car on other train cars making its way. Here it lands in Baltimore, and it's making its way, and it crosses through Pennsylvania. And it's like, why is it lingering on this? And then the date comes up, and it said September 11th, 2001. And when I was watching that documentary, that was the part where I lost it. I was like, again, whale tears, just like, what the fuck? Like, this was September 11th was happening in New York, D.C., and Pennsylvania, while this train car was making it down here to explain to middle schools what the fuck the Holocaust. Like, it was just too much. But you go to this middle school, they have the train car and the paper clips there. And it's just there for anyone to visit whenever you want. And so before I turned 40, I drove down to Whitwell, Tennessee, and visited that train car.
Dude, there's so many places like that. I mean, America's pretty good at hiding history.
Yeah.
Obviously, even if we have museums or little places like that to try and say something, it's not like it's really celebrated.
Yeah.
Which is sad. I was talking actually when I left the Memorial for Peace and Justice. I was talking to my friend Eric on the phone, and he had visited some of the concentration camp sites over in Germany.
Yeah.
And he was saying that over there, it's larger than life. Like they want to own that dark side of their history. Yeah. And so you're going to go there and you're going to feel those feelings, and there's a reason for it, you know, and you're supposed to go there.
Yeah.
And feel like shit about it, because that's part of our history. And if you don't confront that, you're never going to move past it. Not that, I don't know if you ever can. I feel like I'm the more deep I get into history, the more not like uneducated I realize I am about it.
Well, so during the whole pandemic, I've had this Wednesday night group to where it's like 6 or 7 of us. We meet up, we smoke cigars, and we just hang out, all mutually distanced apart outside. And it's been a savior. Like, it's just been amazing to be able to talk to people where you're not all stuck in your house. One guy, like 2 or 3 months in, we've been doing this since early summer, finally had to stop and say, guys, I can't tell you how much this means to me, because I get up, I have breakfast with my wife, I go in and I work. He builds guitar pedals. He's awesome. Hologram. Ryan, he's a great dude. But he's the musician who's giving me shit about the Nickelback AC/DC.
I bet he was.
Yeah. He was also on the David Letterman show, which is fucking awesome. Like, and we watched it on YouTube.
He makes guitar pedals?
Or synth pedals. It's called Hologram. It's the guys in Radiohead uses pedals. Like, it's a kind of a big, and he manufactured
in Knoxville.
Oh, he's less than a mile away from us right now. And he just bought a new shop that's a mile and a half, 2 miles that way. Like he's awesome. Like, but we were but I've had this group and we met here last night because it was raining so damn bad. So we met under the carport and we were talking about, like, there was a point where there were people trying to remove the N-word from Huck Finn. And it was like, you got to understand the weight of that word. And then we were talking about, like, there were people trying to cancel To Kill a Mockingbird because it was white saviorism in a book. And I was telling them, because I grew up on the black side, do not say the N-word. I've put people in the hospital for saying the N-word around me. And even my grandfather, who grew up in the most rural of rural, I remember one year at Christmas, he's like, I didn't teach my boys to say that word. You don't say that fucking, like, he was like, no, my boys do not say that word, which is wild because he was born like 1918. Like, and he was born in the most rural, poverty-stricken areas of East Tennessee. Mm-hmm. But we were talking about that, and I was like, it's weird because the people who want to cancel that are white people. The black people were like, no, you need to keep that shit because you got to own that shit. Yeah, and they were like, no. It's like, no, we've been called this even as recently as this week. Like, you
can't hide it.
Don't do that.
There.
Yeah. And it's so weird.
I don't know. I mean, with all of that stuff, a lot of times I don't even know where my place is, as an ally or, in any of it. Because I am a white, privileged, cisgendered, right. Heteronormative for the most part, right. person. I'm like, man, the more I go into it, the more I realize, like, I'm just currently this last year I've been working on understanding American history a little bit better. And when I say American, actually, it's not even fair. Like native history here, right. all the way through Civil War, all of it. Because the reality is like Americans today are still acting like the same asshole colonizers was when they came over. Just modern people now don't know enough about history to understand they're pretty much saying the same fucking things white people have been saying since they came over and doing the same dumb shit. We're just, we'll radicalize about things right now that are happening, but we don't know shit about our history. So we're not even, I could go down this forever.
It just hit me.
Ignorant white people.
So I always knew I was very fortunate growing up, usually being the only white person around. But it also, and it's funny because just talked about paper clips, but it hit me a month ago how weird it was how I grew up, because grew up on the black side of town, grew up usually being the only white person. That's one element. My grandparents' house, that's right near La Esperanza, always bringing around to food. Mm-hmm. This whole podcast, we're all going to bring it
back to the tacos.
So my grandparents, the family that lived below them were Catholic, which is still abnormal. Like, we're in Southern Baptist buckle right here. Hell, being a Methodist is weird, Is
that what it is here? I didn't realize
Well, it's Methodist Baptist, but it's Catholic Southern, is still Catholic is still odd, which is not down in Louisiana, I know.
Or my family's all Catholic up in Detroit too.
But also the couple that lived across the street from my grandparents, they were in concentration camps. They had the tattoos on their arms. And it hit me like a month ago. I was like, I had a fucked up, weird, awesome childhood that I grew up understanding what concentration camps were when I was really little, getting to understand about Catholicism when I was little, going to Southern Baptist Church with my grandmother, and then growing up on the black side. I was like, do you know how weird that is?
I feel like I'm re-educating myself right now, because I think where I've been pointing myself is like trying to bring my daughter, she's 10 now, like trying to get her to understand things a little bit better. And so I've been having to re-educate myself and realize, like, that kind of growth doesn't stop. Like, learning that stuff, you have to continuously revisit things constantly and rethink things. And, as we get older, as we move around, as our privileges change, like revisiting things, where I was like, I was fucking radical when I was, a teenager. It's like, yeah, but I'm not a fucking teenager anymore. No. And like, things have changed. I'm a mother now, and things are constantly evolving, hopefully for the better, so I'm definitely trying to revisit a lot of that stuff.
Well, and it was weird in that group last night, there were 4 of us, And I bet we talked about the transgender issue for an hour and a half. And one of the guys at one point was like, I'm happy that I'm in this group, that I can speak openly, as honestly, and not worry about. He was actually talking about how he has started doing drugs more often now. And he said there was a point where he was doing drugs where he felt very what would be normally referred to as feminine, like just very sensual, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And he was like, and he just looked at us. He's like, I can't, tell my folks about that. He's like, I can tell the people in this group because I know you all will not judge me or care or call me, gay if I say that. He was like, but in doing that, I started understanding like non-binary and all this stuff a lot more. But we talked about transgender for like an hour and a half. And at one point I just said, it's not my fight. Like, I'm going to be there. I'll be right there beside you. But one of the guys was like, well, we should just refer to everybody as they, them. So there's no he, she. I was like,
I've been attempting to try and do that.
I was like, you know how I do that? I don't say postman. I say postal worker.
Yeah.
I don't say waiter or waitress. I say server. I was like, that's the real fucking way you do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like,
it's respect, it's like, common fucking respect.
I was like, but at the end, I was like, because the one thing we talk about is like the trans issue is so small, but the people on the right try to point at it like they're going to be coming in your bathrooms. Like, no, they're fucking not. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, that's what we were talking about. Like the actual, like what is going on versus what the outrage people on the right.
It's inevitable that these things are going to be huge, though. I think what's important is the dialogues are happening and that they continue on, that they don't, that you continue to, that your friends who are having a hard time communicating continue to go on and have another conversation and maybe make it easier for someone else to have a conversation. And also for us as like, white privileged people to like not think we have the, to look for the answers from people in the communities in a respectful way. It's fucking complex.
So I will say one of the ones I'll tell you to listen to is there's one I did on PhD speaking, public speaking, and queer. That I talked to Katie, who is non-binary queer. But you can refer to Katie as, she's like she, her, or they, them.
Those are her pronouns.
And so I talked to her about that, and I mentioned this to these guys. I was like, I always look at myself as the in-between. And what I told her, I was like, here's the problem as I see it. As some dude that's just looking at this because I'm a fucking nerd. And when I read about religion, I don't read the Bible. I read the fucking, I read the Catholic Bible. I read the Quran. I read the Torah. I was like, because I read everything. I was like, here's the way I look at it, Katie. Because Katie is also very young. She was like 27. I was like, for a long time, it just went like this, to where there was very little progress. And then all of a sudden in the last 10 years, it's just gone straight up. And I was like, people like my parents, you just got to give them time to understand it. And you have to explain it to them without fussing at them. And I was like, I feel like that's my role, is to understand and empathize with you and be an ally to you, but also being able to explain it to Tim Joe Bob out in the sticks. Be like, no, man, like Katie just wants to live and have her partner and just wants love. And that's awesome. Don't you want that? Cool. Then that's
try to bridge it.
Yeah. I was like, there's got to be people that you can't point the finger. You got to be there's got to be middle ground people.
There does. But I do also believe, though, that in any of this, there have to be all kinds of people. Like, there have to be people that are willing to throw the Molotov cocktail. There have to be people that are willing to just handle, maybe their path is to handle the more political, wordy side, legal stuff. There have to be, and there are people who cannot participate in the ways because maybe the way their life is, it's not safe for them to participate in any way more than maybe nurturing or having quiet conversations. Like they're being radical takes on so many different forms. There have to be all of that. So there have to be people bridging it, but there also should probably be someone on the other side that's calling that asshole out for continuing to be a bigot.
So that's what one of the guys brought up. He was like, I'm sure Rosa Parks and MLK were seen as assholes. I was like, yeah. they were the ones pushing exactly what you just said. They were the ones going, "Fuck this! We're not going to stand for this."
And there
shit.
have to be people. Yeah. There have to be movers and shakers, and there has to be it calls for everybody. It sucks for me.
Yeah,
this is what's painful for me is that having a daughter now, my reality now has gotten over the last 10 years a lot smaller because I had a daughter and my focus was on that, whereas when I was younger it was far more supercharged and playing in a lot of punk bands that were singing all kind of shit and going to protests, and I grew up in that. And then I had a kid and I was breastfeeding. I'm not going to be out, and also Lafayette's not a very radical city at all, but now I'm trying to figure out where do I fit in, where do I, now that I've settled into this stage in my life, I know a little bit more who I am, and I realize that I've taken on the responsibility of raising a daughter, and I want her to move forward. And so my place is a little bit quieter. It's about re-educating myself and educating my daughter so that the next generation, hopefully isn't filled with as many assholes, and maybe she can go on to help and be part of some, hopefully, of course I'm hopeful, some better version.
Well, that's what we were talking about last night, and saying that I was like, here's the sad fact. Some of these things we're just going to have to wait on people to die. I was like,
truly,
it's literally the sad fact is the
generational
the people with the bullhorns, the people with the power. We're just going to have to wait on them to die, because guess what? Once they die, it's all green pastures. Past that,
we can hope that
Okay,
so the next round of assholes comes around.
Since we've gone deep, I'll try to round this down into circling around to the end. So, in raising your daughter, are you teaching her and trying to instill in her and pass on to her, use your hands, do this?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And trying to get her to find what fits for her.
Yeah, my daughter is. I'm not she's the center of my world, but I don't want to say that I'm a helicopter mom, but I definitely, when I had a kid, I was like, okay, you made this decision, you can either battle this or you can just flow with it and try to integrate who I am into, some sort of cohesive thing. And so for my daughter, man, she's brilliant. I know everybody thinks that their kid's the shit, but my daughter is truly brilliant and very, she's definitely an empath, highly sensitive. Her brain functions, where I'm getting is that I give her a lot of information. Mm-hmm. And when we travel together, we don't just drive from point A to point B and she's on a tablet. We've done a lot of traveling together, me and her, and it's always with intention. Even if we're just going somewhere simple, there's so much stuff along the way to show her, to where I'm trying to get her mind to open up bigger, to be able to look at things from a different perspective than just this little narrow microcosm. So yeah, she cooks with me. We do hands-on stuff all the time. We do a lot. Yeah. Like I said, travel, food. Oh, my daughter, when she was little, I had an herb garden and I started her really young smelling herbs, and now she'll be eating something and she'll say, "There's sage in this," and she's shit. 10. It's fucking awesome. And I realized that really early on, and of course everybody knows this, but children are sponges, know, so you can run with that however you want to as a parent. And I've chosen to try to open her up as wide as I can for the means that I have. So a lot of that includes questioning things. Yeah. Well, how do you really feel about that? And what do you think this person might feel? And trying to get her to look at things from different angles. So yeah, I mean, we're very hands-on with everything.
Is there anything that she seems to be leaning more towards, that she is enjoying or excelling at?
She's definitely, she's in gifted and talented. So she's academically brilliant, but of course she gets bored super easy, She's in talented for music, and also that just got accepted into the talented for arts too. So she draws all the time. She is an amazing singer, but me and her dad are both musicians as well. So she's grown up around music. She's all over the place. I don't know. She also loves to cook. She loves to travel. I don't know what the hell she's going to be.
No, I'm just laughing at how she's going to rebel.
I've been trying to figure that out
for you
too.
all. Is she's going to listen to Tony Bennett?
You know what? I wouldn't even be mad about that.
I was going to say Nickelback.
She might get me with Nickelback and Clutch. She'd be like in her room saying like, "Fuck you, Mom. I'm listening to Clutch's first album all the way through, and you can't do a fucking thing."
Just don't let her in on that, because she'll never. That's like not.
Clutch
that's not
the
obvious.
The bands that never happened. Clutch and Nickelback.
Yeah, that's not obvious. So I don't know.
I don't know that. I often think about that, but I would be supportive of her no matter what. And I really don't feel at this point that even if she made the decision to be a cheerleader, which may not be my thing, but fuck it. If that makes you happy, like, do what makes you happy and find joy in life and do it where you're not hurting other people.
I tell you, it's weird in that I've got a lot of friends that never grew up like playing competitive sports, and I feel like I learned so much shit.
I've actually been thinking about that. I'm not an athlete, but I have been thinking, and she's gonna hate me for it, that I think my daughter should probably be involved in some
teaches you how to lose.
Yeah, and that's a big thing.
Because like my dad, it was great. Like my dad was my coach a bunch of years, and it was always, if we won or lost, it didn't matter. He was like, if you won, good. He's like, practice is on Tuesday. If you lost, what did we learn from that?
Yep.
Practice is on Tuesday. Like it didn't matter. Like if we won everything, he was like, this is great. Congratulations, we'll have a pizza party. But it was almost treated equally, of like, you don't gloat in winning and you don't wallow in defeat. You figure out how to do it better next time.
And just team playing in general, working with other people and having to navigate, dropping your ego. I definitely think that that's something that, as foreign as it is to me, I think would be good for my daughter. It would have been good for me,
The funniest thing is, in my 30s, I started realizing that a lot of the way I am would just be like one thing he said to me. Like there was one time we were playing and we beat the other team, brag. And as we left, one of the guys on the other team went into like the lobby area and there was a couch and he was crying and throwing a hissy fit, slammed himself on the couch and started kicking the couch. And my dad, big shocker, is not a small man. So we're walking out the door. He hits to open the door. He turns around and he puts a finger in my face and says, "Boy, I better never see you do that shit ever." And I was like, oh, yeah, that's why I don't like, if I win an award, I don't be like, oh, look at me, I'm badass. It's like, no, you don't brag in winning and you don't cry in defeat. Like, it's all the fucking same. You're going to have wins and losses no matter what.
I definitely feel like that's something with my daughter that I worry about, because she has been, and she's very mature for her age, but she's been exposed to so much stuff just because of who we are as parents and who she's been around, that she feels different than other kids too, which is it's a thin line between having a big ego or, just recognizing your differences or where she excels or whatever, so I've been thinking about that a lot lately, because we're going to be entering middle school pretty soon. And that's when it's,
Well, what I learned, again, from the boredom, like when I went through high school, I had 4 years of learning every aspect of design and printing you could, and doing it. So when I got to college, I already knew a lot of shit. So I would get done with projects in no time, and I would immediately look to see whoever was struggling and be like, hey, I'm going to go help them. Because it's like, I'm fucking bored. Like it was less out of me going, I am a great person, and more out of, I can sit here and twiddle my thumbs for 2 hours. Or I can go see if I can help them out.
Yeah, my daughter's been doing virtual learning, and I see her dealing with that boredom element of it. And I'm very much looking forward to her being back in school, because, like you said, you want to help people. She doesn't have that opportunity to be around other kids right now. And I can see it's hard on her, especially with the kind of personality that she has.
Although on the flip side, I would be in algebra class, and he would... funny full circle, my algebra teacher, Mr. Baldwin, was a linebacker for the Chicago Bears, and he was also MLK's bodyguard. Big fucking dude. He actually, because I had him my freshman year for algebra, and he was like, can you do 100 push-ups? It's like, no. And he was like, every football player should start every day doing 100 push-ups. I'm like, I'm 13, man. And he was like, if you can do 100 push-ups right now, I will give you a B in this class. And I think I did like 45, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. This hurts.
He's like, you're failing.
Yeah. Oh, he also threw a piece of chalk in my mouth when I fell asleep in his class. Like,
damn.
But Mr. Baldwin, like, I would do algebra, and he would assign like 50 questions for homework. I would do 10 and get them right and be like, I'm done. Like, I don't know what I need to prove here. Like, I've already got these 10 right. If I do, I don't want to waste my time. Like, I think that's another thing is when you're smart. Yeah. I wasn't saying I was super smart, but it's like once I proved I was right by getting 10 right, I was like, I'm done. I ain't got time for this. I'm going to go read Sherlock Holmes or something.
That's exactly how my daughter is starting to get.
Yeah. It's hard.
It's so hard to temper that, man, because it's really, like I said, it's a fine line, between being too big for your britches or thinking you're, because there is something to say about completing the fucking work.
I know.
Do the goddamn work.
Yeah.
Like, you know it. Okay, it doesn't matter. Someone else,
I think it's one of those
challenge
things.
Yourself. Go. Maybe there's one question in there that you wouldn't know.
But I think it's also one of those things that there were so many, like 50 questions.
And that's our American school system.
Yeah.
It's a whole other,
Okay, we'll end on this before you fall asleep.
Oh, I'm not falling asleep. I'm relaxed as hell right now.
The rain started. So now it started to get, oh man, last night on that roof under the carport, there was one of the guys like, I may just fall asleep under here. I was like, yeah, go ahead. I don't give a shit. It's like, because that tin roof is so aluminum roof. So in moving to Knoxville, do you know what you want to do?
So I'm actually, Wes and Jess have offered me a job over at the upholstery shop. So I'm going to go and work for them for a while, which I'm actually really excited about because I've been doing upholstery for 5 years. But like I said, for the most part, I'm self-taught. And Jess was like, I can't believe you've gotten as good as you have being self-taught, but I'm crazy about books and videos, and I'll just soak it all up. But the kind of work that they produce over there is fucking killer.
Yeah. And
I know just watching Jess, like, there's so much that I can learn from working with people, and I appreciate their skills, the years that they've done this. They have over 20 years of experience,
and it's in her family.
Oh,
it's in her blood.
It's in her blood, and I don't take that for granted at all. Yeah. And so, I'm always on a quest to better myself in one way or another, and so I'm definitely putting aside doing this for myself. I laughed listening to the episode where you interviewed them because at one point they were talking about looking for employees. And Wes was like, if there's anybody that's good enough to work with us, they should have their own business. And Jess said something like, hold on, I'm holding out for the unicorn. Like, there's somebody out there, there's somebody out there that is really good at this but doesn't want to handle the business side of stuff. And I was listening to that, and I was like, I'm the fucking unicorn. Like,
did you already know them before?
I've only met them a handful of times through Cindy, but she was like, oddly enough, her best friends happen to own an upholstery shop here, and I love it here, And so my plan is to go and work for them and continue to grow in the craft that I love. And while I don't have to do the calls and the invoicing and all of that, to actually work on building a better reality for me and my daughter, which is really number one. And I want her to move up into a little bit bigger of a city. And I'd also want us to go hiking and, to get into outdoor activities because me and her both can get so stuck in our head, just ticker tape is what I call it, that I think being in the mountains and being by the water and that will be grounding for us, which is huge. So
that's been such a huge thing here with like the greenways and shit, like that it is so... Like, there was one buddy of mine that when he got into biking, him and his wife live out in Fountain City, and he rode greenways all the way to Cedar Bluff in West Knoxville. He's like, it took me almost all day. He was like, but I was able to travel like 30 miles on the interstate on greenways. He was like, that's nuts.
That's what I want for Lou and I. And I want to get us into more wild foraging and mycology. And also because we travel so much, I feel like the thing that I'm good at is to be able to show her stuff. So from this central location, me and her can continue to explore the United States at our leisure, and so I'm coming here for an upholstery opportunity, but I'm also coming here for everything else. Mainly everything else.
And in that vein, like, you have so many good opportunities here, like Seven Islands in the non-COVID times, like every week. They have like, what's it called? Where you figure out what the bird is.
Yeah.
Like shit like that they have classes every week.
Well, the campus, actually, because I've been nerding out trying to see what kind of opportunities are here for me and Lou, but I know that the university also offers, you don't have to be a student, but they offer classes and like survival skills. And
do they really?
Yeah, if you go onto the university, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a secondary education thing through the university. Huh. And for like $50, you can go learn about bears or learn about whatever,
The culinary school here at UT used to be amazing, and that every month they would pick a different country and bring in somebody and make food from like Ghana or something. Like, it was crazy. I don't know if they do that anymore, but here's what I'll end on, because I feel like this might be up your alley. Do you know about the Body Farm?
Okay, yes, I do.
Okay, good.
My sister was actually, and my daughter too, my younger sister, she's 11 years younger than me, but when she was a kid, was always wanted to be a forensic pathologist.
Yep.
And so since then, she's decided not to go to school, and my mom is now obsessed with having my sister move here so that she can become a forensic pathologist and go do work at the body farm. Is that what it's called? And now my daughter is obsessed with the idea of becoming a forensic pathologist. And I was like, maybe the universe is speaking to us in all of these different ways.
Here's the funniest part. Dr. Bass's office and everything is underneath Neyland Stadium. And my friend Courtney, who got her master's in speech language pathology, said, oh yeah, I had to go down there a lot. It's creepy as fuck. and the fact that there are bodies down here too is even scarier, because she was like, lights will flick.
But that's not open to the public, the body, if it's all for students, right?
Yes.
But isn't forensic pathology like the big thing at the school here?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
That's what CSI is based on. It's based on Dr. Bass. Yeah. I've got one of his books up here. This has been like, oh, God. Here. I'll end on this Dr. Bass story, because for the third time I'll say this. I have to see a man about a horse.
Okay.
And he did a talk here at a bookstore. And he's the nicest, funniest dude. But he did a book on real life things that happened that he went and investigated to see what really happened. Like, he was like Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper. There was always a theory that something happened and the Big Bopper pulled out a gun and shot in the plane and killed the pilot, and that's how they all died.
Well, damn.
So it's in the book. Like, he's got different sections on different weird shit like that are celebrity famous cases. And he determined, he's like, no, he didn't. There's no bullet entry wound in the pilot. Like, he went and investigated all that shit. But I go to the book release thing. And he's standing up there, him and his writing partner. And on the front row is like an 8-year-old little girl. And he's sitting there talking, and he goes, yeah, so the thing is with lot lizards, and, he's like, do you all know what lot lizards are? And people are like, no. And he was like, well, that's at truck stops. There are prostitutes that live in the woods, and they'll come up and give it up to, oh, wait, Dad, are you okay with me talking about this in front of your daughter? And then Dad was like, yeah. He's like, okay, so the lot lizards, what usually happens is after the truckers have sex with them is they kill them and they just dump their bodies in the mill because they're traveling across the state of Tennessee. And I'm like, but the fact that he paused and went, hey, Dad, are you okay with me? And then he just
And it was the dad that was there, of course. He was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think the dad was scared shitless. But they were sitting right down front. But the fact that he didn't miss a beat, and oh, yeah, so they kill him. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in the back like dying laughing.
You know what, though? My daughter wouldn't flinch at that at all.
I was laughing my ass off in the back. I was like, "This is the funniest fucking thing," but the timing could not have been more perfectly comedic. Like it was so great. Yeah, we've got a great bookstore. We've actually got a black-owned bookstore called The Bottom, which is great, and they have a monthly book program.
Where's that located?
It's underneath Mark Nelson Denim, right outside the old city, but they're looking for a more permanent location. And then downtown you have Union Ave Books, which is great. And they usually have speakers and stuff. There's one of the previous guests I had on, he wrote a book. He wrote for like Sports Illustrated and he was a writer. And then he just got tired of it. He moved back here and he did Uber and Lyft and he wrote stories about what that was like, about the people he met and the conversations he had with them. It's a great book. I've got it right over there.
You just need to make me a master list of like.
But he was on the podcast. He was on the podcast, and
all that stuff, all the stuff we've been talking about. You just need a master list.
You're going to have to listen back to this,
okay?
Because I'm thinking of all the shit I've mentioned. But he, shit. Why did I bring him up? I was talking about the Body Farm. I was talking about. Union Ave Books.
Oh yeah.
So he read a passage from that. And it was great. Like, and in the non-COVID times, there's all kinds of free shit like that. The library does all kinds of shit. If your daughter's into movies, they do movies on the square.
We're both movie nerds.
Like free movies on the square, like every week.
You know, this is the one time where I feel like moving right now, I'm actually totally okay with it being like still isolation because it'll just keep it like, we're moving here, we're going to get situated, and once we're comfortable, hopefully things will start.
You get acclimated, and then
and it'll put us outside more versus just spending money and all this other stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. So the summer should be good.
That's as good a place as any to end. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me.